Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the night one of our season 20 SFL rookie draft. Fantastic evening to you all. And my name is Jacob Clear, your host this evening. Alongside me, I'll introduce the panel one by one. Starting far left in the left corner, we've got one of the founding members of the Sim Scouts group, a very important group of people at this time of year. It is Alamo City tight end, better known as Frank the Franchise Way, Garrison Blue. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Jacob. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Eddie Gage, better known for his appearances as the host of the ever-prolific Your Chess program. How are you doing tonight, Eddie?
What up, Joe? Excited to be here, man. Let's get it going.
And on the right-hand side, it's Daniel Wright, Minnesota, and also a regular co-host on the Minor League Fights and Insights program. How are you doing tonight, Daniel?
Doing pretty good. I think the minors thought they got rid of me, but I'm back one more time to see how they do in this draft.
They can't get rid of you, and nor do we want to. So, before we get underway, because we've got a little bit of time to spare before our pick gets underway, I wanted to know, I'm going to start from left and go to right throughout the evening, but I wanted to ask the question, because you've all had a lot of exposure to this rookie class, either through your shows or through Frank's scouting group and his mock drafts. Who do you want to see get drafted the most across this weekend? Who's the guy that you're looking for?
I'm looking, big fan of Rob Hunt and TJ Harper. Those two guys are active in chat. They've got, they got the bills, they got the stats, and it's going to be very valuable for the teams to pick those two guys up.
For sure. Eddie?
For myself, fullback, Jay Bomber, selfless player, great teammate, all-around great guy. I love to see that guy get drafted this weekend for sure.
Daniel?
Well, this guy had probably one of the best interviews on Minor League Fights Insights. I'd like to see Easy Money, John Fullerton, wide receiver, get a chance to so he can sign in the pros.
All great shouts. And I think that'll lead us into our first pick. I'm going to keep up here. Charleston, my own franchise, is on the pick. However, I'm not making the selection, so I can sit here and quiz you all on what you think could potentially happen with this number one pick. As General Manager Terrell Sutherland gets ready to make this selection with the new leadership in this organization. With you, Frank Wade, I mean, you've done your mock draft, so you might have a good idea of who this might be by your own research. So I'll start in your direction. Who do you think this could be, and what direction are they going to go in?
Well, looking at the roster, the hole I see is at linebacker. And I put that in my mock draft, and this is where I've got a guy like Harper going. Creech could be another possibility. So I think it's going to be linebacker, maybe an outside shot at offensive line, but I think it's going to be linebacker.
Fair call. I mean, Eddie, you're a defensive guy. Do you share that sentiment on the outside linebacker spot?
I do share that sentiment. I believe they're going to go linebacker as well. However, someone was just indicated about TJ Harper, but anyone who's been paying attention to Discord the past several days, there seems to be some kind of disconnect between those two. So I'm thinking maybe Stan Diamond or maybe even Geno McFly.
Sure thing. And Daniel?
I feel like we're all linebackers here talking. I also think it's going to be an outside linebacker. I had Geno McFly as my pick for this one, but I can also see if they're going to go someone more player-focused, like someone that does a lot of backstage stuff, maybe a lot of scouting. Jacob Creech is a good honorable mention for that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to touch on, is just the fact that we've gone through, I think, at least 5 names that could potentially go number one overall at the same position. It's interesting to see how much depth there has been with the quality of players at that outside linebacker spot, and I think it's a sentiment to the development of the minor league. We've seen a very, very packed draft class this season, and I'm sure, irrespective of the fact that there aren't that many picks to be made this season, there's still a lot going on down there, and a lot of characters that are going to be vying for spots up here. And we were discussing earlier in the program before we aired that There were 18 elected to make highlight reels for their players before this went to air. So there's plenty of good characters to run through. And the Charleston pick is in, so I will throw it to Commissioner Cameron to announce the first overall pick in the draft. We'll give 2 seconds. Does anyone else have anything else to touch on before we pass this pick over?
Well, I'll touch on the general chat of the SFL and Terrell Southern trying to give hints all day in Discord on who it might be. I think he was having a little fun with all the rookies, all the owners that might be speculating on who it was. So hopefully he had some fun with it. Hopefully you guys get a good pick and see you guys making a strive for the playoffs.
He was actually throwing in hints today in Gen Chat, little subtle hints regarding who that pick may be, but I could not figure it out. So I don't know. We'll find out the same time everyone else does.
I can assure you internally that he has been incredibly excited to make this pick. It's been one of those things, and looking back on it, the last time I was on a team that had the number 1 overall pick was when I drafted Carl Falk or Mike Ryan back in season 16. Funnily enough, it wasn't as clear cut this season as to who we were going to take, but I'm looking forward to seeing who Sutherland has settled on. All right, time is up on this one. We're going to pass it to Commissioner Cameron Irvine to announce the number 1 overall pick.
Welcome, everyone, to the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft. Thank you all for being here this evening. With the first pick in the SFL Season 20 Draft, the Charleston Predators select outside linebacker Geno McFly. Los Angeles is on the clock with the number 2 pick.
All right, I'm going to start with Frank Wade. Your reactions to this pick?
That's a good pick. I mean, it had to be outside linebacker in my opinion. And, I threw about 2 or 3 names out there. I had mentioned to some people that I talked to earlier that McFly could be a possibility. I put Harper there as the pick in my mock, and I didn't get a chance to update it. But that is a good pick. You got a guy that's like 6'4", 250. He's from Annapolis. I'm an old Annapolis guy and everything. So 72 tackles on the season. So pretty good pick for Charleston.
Pass it to Eddie. Your reactions?
I agree with that. I mean, one thing about it is, Coach Jay Hayden comes over from Arizona to Charleston. He's been working with Geno in the minors, serving as his coach. So they already have a great familiarity with one another. So just a great fit for them overall.
And Daniel, your reactions?
Yeah, he was actually the pick I had in mind for you guys for Charleston. So it actually makes sense. Eddie touched on it. Get some of your familiar with. He's very active in chat. He calls himself Mr. Underrated. I don't think he's underrated no more. Congratulations on the first overall pick, my friend.
Now, one thing I'll touch on before we move to the second overall pick is that we picked up on a while ago. He stacked into the stats for us for a couple of games across the season and found out that he's a South Carolina native, so I think that kind of played into it a fair amount. And we really enjoyed his character, and we think he's the guy to take here, and we're stoked with this pick. 4 minutes left for LA to pass in their number 2 overall pick. Held on to this. There was some movement throughout the morning with trades, but this one was unaffected. So big pick for LA. They've held on to this number 2 pick. We'll start with Frank Wade again. What's the direction here?
Direction here again. I think we're going defense. There's a low availability of defensive tackle, and that's their hole that they need to fill. So I think it's going to be defensive tackle. I got Jason Bourne is the defensive tackle they're going to select here from Tacoma.
And Eddie, you have always shouted the value of linemen on either side. Is this the same direction, you think?
Well, ever since they lost Neil Rivers a couple of seasons ago, they took a big hit on their defensive line. He was always one of their more dominating forces up there up front. However, I don't think the pick is going to be Jason Bourne because I cannot confirm nor deny, but there's a rumor that Jason Bourne stopped receiving phone calls from the LA area code from the 213, and they had to move on. So, again, I cannot confirm or deny that. So, my guess is they're going to move on to their next choice, was going to be Mel Gibson.
It's a good point you make, and interesting whether or not who's right here, because obviously we've both got your own experiences and exposures and readings. Daniel, anyone you want to throw in?
They chose the two that I had. It's good that Eddie mentioned that because I have Mel Gibson here as my pick. But you could go either way. If Jason is the pick, he's a bigger guy, big burly. Melt is a little smaller, but I mean, stat-wise, he's a bit higher up in stats. So you can't go wrong either way. But I think it's Mel Gibson as well.
Fair enough call. It's worth noting. I don't think it's distance possibility, but there is also room for another receiver on this team. But I think defensive tackle seems to be the consensus, especially given that they had 4 last season. I can't recall off the top of my head. I think it was Chad Stinson was one that they lost. He's now with Oklahoma City, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. So that's the void that they're replacing, and that's what we all seem to believe will be the go. There are a good amount of defensive tackles, and given the fact that the outside linebacker was the top pick, they've got pick of the litter for that particular position. Is there anyone else? I mean, there's plenty in there we can sift through. Is there anyone else we think could potentially go here as a defensive tackle?
Well, the one thing Daniel mentioned it about Mel Gibson's build being about 5'10", but he's heavy. Can probably gobble up a couple of guards on the line, or a center guard combination, gobble up some players there. I just thought I went with the bigger player with Jason Bourne, but we'll see what happens. You could also think possibly that defensive end may be converted to a defensive tackle. Could be a possibility too.
Good point. And the pick's in, so we'll throw it to Commissioner Cameron O'Brien to announce the second overall pick.
A bit of spoilers here as we work out our new setup, but with the season 20 second overall pick, the Los Angeles Lycans select Robert Thump, defensive tackle. The number 3 pick, that is Denver. You are on the clock.
I love this pick. As someone who has had a particularly high amount of activity in and around the league, and someone who has shown a great deal of character over the course of his time in the minor league. I'll start with you, Frank. How do you feel about this pick?
That's a good pick. I mean, he's another guy that I had going in the first round. I had him going a little bit later, but I mean, he's a big guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 298, something like that. Gets into the backfield, is disruptive. Good guy that's also active in chat. And a lot of people know who he is. He'll talk to people and put his name out there. So it's a good pick for them.
Eddie?
I'm also agreeing with that. The fact he has no missed progressions, pretty active in chat from what I've seen. I've only seen the second half of his schedule for the minor leagues, but he seems like a pretty active guy. And that's one of the main things I look for in a player. So I agree with the pick as well.
Absolutely. And Daniel, I'm unsure if he made any appearances on the show, or have you had much to do with him at all?
He didn't have much appearances on the show, but he's definitely someone that's always in chat talking about the games and talking about how they're doing. He's not statted too much lower than the rest of them, so this is a good pickup if we're going for a player pick that they can build into the future. I think this is a good move for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. This screams character pick, and it screams longevity, and I think that's the way to go when you're picking this tie. You want a guy that's you're going to be able to build around for some time. So we'll shift to Denver here. This is where it kind of we're going to start to see a little bit of indecisiveness between the panel, because this is the team that's got a few picks that they can make. We're obviously thinking quarterback at this point in time. Whether or not they go that direction with Queen City moving back, I think, is one's guess. I'm going to pass it to Frank before I start to pitch in a prediction of my own. But Frank, what do you think is the direction here?
Quarterback is a hole that needs to be filled. It could be a quarterback here, but I think that's something they can wait on and still get their guy. Defensive end is a hole that needs to be filled, and again, low availability of defensive tackles and defensive ends. I go with Robert Brady here, the defensive end from Lexington.
That's a good point, Mike. Eddie?
With me being a defensive guy, it's hard for me to admit this, but like I said on Ashley's show earlier this week, the quarterback position is the most important position on the field to me. And I know there's only a couple of teams looking for quarterback this offseason, but you got a quarterback out there in type attack who not only is a leader, not only is he vocal, but he also scouts. And that's a rare, combination to have. And if I'm Denver, I go out there, I don't waste my time. And I'm picking up quarterback type attack right now.
Yeah, that's a great point you make. And they've obviously got to think about what Queen City could potentially do if they don't take their quarterback now. They risk Queen City going out and grabbing their guy before it comes around again. Daniel, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, we see it, a lot of people early on take the pick that they're more comfortable with. Quarterback is definitely a need that they have to fill. Defensive end as well, but they also need a kicker. And we saw, I think 2 seasons ago, they didn't take a kicker until they thought about doing it very late, and they actually missed up on their chance. Now, there is 5 kickers and 4 is only needed, but this is a good opportunity to take the number 1 kicker in the league if they want to, which I think is Yay Verdi, personally. He's been lights out on fire in the minor leagues kicking.
That's a good point. That's actually the pick I had sitting in my mock that I kept to myself. I had Verity. Juniper Belson's also an option if they want to look at kicker. There were quite a few good kickers came through this season. But with that said, I think the pick's in, and I'll pass it to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for the 3rd overall.
Thank you, Jacob. With the 3rd overall pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Denver Nightwings select Robert Brady, defensive end. The 4th overall pick, that is Carolina by way of Indianapolis. You are on the clock.
Well done, Frank. Hit the nail on the head. I'll pass it to you first. I think he's muted himself.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry about that. Hey,
yes,
big
sir.
guy. Big guy. He is going to do some damage. Tackle for loss. Going to bring pressure on the quarterback and be disruptive. I think it's a very good pick right here.
Any of your reactions?
This reminds me of the season 15 draft when St. Louis and Atlanta, and perhaps a third team, I can't recall, were all holding out on quarterback and just waiting to see who was going to take one first. And here we go again, Denver passing up on an opportunity to solidify their quarterback position and picks up a defensive end who I thought was going to go in the 2nd round to this same Denver Nightwing squad. So congratulations to them. They have a game plan in mind. And Jerry Vega, he's a Hall of Fame head coach, in my opinion. So I'm sure he got things figured out.
That's a great point. And Daniel, any?
This is a good pick. Rob Ray is probably the best defensive end out there right now. And defensive end is a spot that is short and much needed. I actually had Robert Brady going a bit later to a different team, so I'll have to change that in the future. But this is a great pick. This is a good pick for Denver Nightwings. I think you can't go wrong. You can wait to get your quarterback or your kicker a bit later, since there is 5 kickers and only 4 are needed. So you can get a little run of the mill on your pick.
Yeah, that's some great analysis there, and it's good to note that he is he's a particularly energetic character. He's got a lot of passion for the league, a lot of passion for his player, and I'm sure he's going to be incredible to join this Denver Nightwings roster and play underneath Vega and Javier Vasquez in that organization. It's certainly a pick that I'm sure we're going to enjoy with the amount of energy he's going to provide that locker room. We're going to switch it to Carolina. Now, this is their first trade. I think 3 this morning that we're going to have to cover, but this was a pretty interesting move, and I think we'll have a bit of a consensus here. This could potentially be. Frank, what does Carolina move up for here?
Well, in order to pull the trigger on that, they've got somebody that they think is not going to be around in the second round, and they've got a hole fill at linebacker. You sit there, you've got a couple guys out there for offensive line. They could go offensive line right here. There's only about 3 or 4 available, unless you want to try to convert someone. But it's either going to be that, maybe a slight chance of possibly there's 2 tight ends out there, so possibly maybe one of those 2 tight ends.
That's a good point. Eddie, again, we're looking at outside linebacker. Are you thinking the same thing?
I'm not, and here's why. So just this morning, like you said, we had 2 trades pulled off between different organizations, but also moving up in the draft was Sioux Falls. I don't know which trade was announced first, whether it was Carolina's trade or Sioux Falls trade, but Sioux Falls traded up, and they don't have a tight end on their roster. If their trade was announced first or made public first, and then Carolina steps up and they make that great trade ahead of them, 1 pick, they have a goal in mind. I think they're going to draft a tight end because Sioux Falls doesn't have a tight end. So, and with there only being 2 in the draft this season, I think Carolina is moving up in the draft to pick up a tight end. Perhaps
that's a great point you made. Yeah, I completely see that, and I thought it was interesting looking at it last night with Sioux Falls' roster and seeing that they didn't roster a tight end at all last season. They ran without one. However, with the introduction of Jason Williams to this offense, they probably need it, even if only for run blocking. It's probably a logical decision. So I think it would be interesting to go and look at the timestamps of these trades. It's a very possible explanation for it. I'll pass it to Daniel. What do you think is the direction here for the Skyhawks?
So I'm a little surprised by the trade when it did happen, because I had them getting Jacob Creech, which I thought would drop low enough for them to take. So now that they moved up, makes me think they had someone else in mind. So this could be the time for the greatness, TJ Harper. But my God, I feel like it should be Jacob Creech because he's a Carolina boy. I feel like he wants to go home.
All very good points. I think realistically anything can happen here, and the pick's in. I'm going to throw it to Commissioner Cameron Opine to announce this highly disputed overall pick.
Thank you, Jacob. With the 4th overall pick in the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft, the Carolina Skyhawks select Xavier Solomon, tight end. The 5th pick, you are on the clock. That is Sioux Falls by way of Jacksonville.
Well done, Eddie. We'll start with Frank, but you've hit the nail on the head the second time this evening. We're exactly right by one of the analysts. Frank, your reactions to this pick?
So he's a big kid. He reminds me of like a Shannon Sharp type of guy that's big, 6'4", and can run. And so he had over 500 yards of receiving during the season 6, and something that they needed. Me and Eddie mentioned it, and he had a better idea of possibly who the guy was going to be. I just had a slight suspicion that it could be a tight end, even though linebacker is something that they do need to fill later on.
Absolutely. Eddie, you got it exactly right. What are your reactions to this one?
Well, they have Hattori Hanzo over there coaching the team up. He's always liked the power run game, way back when they had Ash Odom in Chicago. Now he's back reunited with Carolina, and they already have one tight end on the roster. They brought in Ike McBride in the offseason of power back after being forced to work with one who was not far as progressed. Bringing in Ike is a tremendous upgrade, and they want to complement that with tight ends who can block up front, present an attack on the second level of the passing game and keep teams honest defensively. So it only made sense for them to bring in a second tight end to complement all those features.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll pass it to Daniel for adding my own insight. What are your thoughts here, Daniel?
Well, it makes sense why they traded up. There's only 2 tight ends in the draft itself, so you really need to get your hands on one of them if you really want to make a grab for it. Because we know there are teams later on now that don't have a tight end yet, and they still probably would like to pick one up. So this makes sense for them to make the push upwards, and we'll see if they get to sell their linebacker with their next pick.
Yeah, I mean, they can afford, like we spoke earlier at the top of the board when CHS, there are that many linebackers available to them. You know, who knows who could fall to them at that point. But I think this is a really good pick, and I think they quietly had one of the better off seasons we've seen out of all the teams in the league. That offense looks really good at the moment. Not only the fact that they brought back Hanzo, but then adding McBride, we didn't really expect that one to happen, and they got her, and then bringing in the 3 wide receivers they brought in. They've got Harish as a WR3 behind the return of Heath McDaniel Jr., and they also snuck in Chase Earl. So they've got a really talented offense, and obviously we know the talents behind the playbooks in Shan Varner, and I think this is a really interesting team and a team that is just on the verge of exploding into a really dangerous offensive-based team. We'll switch our attention to trade number 2 of the Sioux Falls Sparrows, potentially, if Eddie's analogy is 100% correct. They're in a bit of a scrambling situation, but Jay Levy, I'm sure he's got plan B and C lined up, but we'll start with Frank Wade. What do you think is the plan here for Sioux Falls?
Well, if it was tight end, there's only one left unless they go with a fullback that they can try to convert over, which is a possibility. But they could also be thinking maybe O-line to help out the run game. So could be one of those 2.
Eddie?
So coming into this draft, there were 2 tight ends. Xavier Solomon just got drafted. Shout out to Carolina. Like you said, they have one hell of an offseason. There only leaves one tight end remaining. That's Bob Long. But anyone who's been paying attention knows that Canton has aspirations of picking him up. So I'm not sure what Sioux Falls is going to do, because they tend to, go about their own way and do what they want to do and doesn't care about the rest. So we'll see if they decide to pick up this last remaining tight end. Because if they do, it's going to throw a monkey wrench to a lot of teams' plans.
For sure. That's a great point. Daniel?
Well, it would make sense they would try and move up to get a tight end. We do know the history of Bob Long, as Eddie alluded to. But if they don't go the tight end route, I can potentially see them with their new running back to the Stars. They might go offensive line and maybe try and support and go for the run game. I can see them maybe taking Max Van Lynch from Tacoma if they don't want to go the tight end route now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I looked at the roster last night in my own research and saw that they had 2 guards last season. One of them didn't return at all. He was cut before the season ended, and their other guard switched to defensive tackle, so they have no offensive line yet. Yet they had 2 last season, so I think it's a good point that they could potentially be the selection here with so many options still available for that we've looked at. I think Van Lynch is the unquestionable number 1 offensive lineman just based on character and activity. He's been around quite a bit. It's certainly an interesting prospect as well that they could potentially throw that in the works and take Bob Lung and sweep him before he can reach the team that has been courting him. As we await the pick, is there anyone else on this offensive line pool that is of interest that could potentially go here?
We got now in my mock, I have Sioux Falls picking up Max Van Ling, like Daniel said. That's, and with the trade and everything, and lineman's not a high. There's not a lot of guys playing O-line either, so
3.
maybe they were moving up to get the O-line the whole time. So we'll have to wait and see.
Quite possible, and I think Van Lynch is probably a very good guess here. I fancy that's the that's the go as we await this pick. I mean, look, they obviously brought in Jason Williams. It was arguably the move of the off-season. They retained their 4 wide receivers, so they've got that again. Again, like we said earlier, that they didn't have a tight end last season, so it's every chance that Jason McGee maintains that and just sticks to what worked. However, with a different running back, a more higher valued running back, there's every chance that that philosophy may change. They did maintain their fullback, however, so that's not like Williams is completely spare with run blockers. But I still completely agree on the prospect of offensive line. So look, still awaiting this pick to come in. They moved up.
I think what we
pick
just
15.
talked about, Jacob. I think what we just talked about, the fact that Sioux Falls still on the clock right now, it just goes to show you that perhaps Carolina, stole their pick from them, who they plan on picking up, and now they're trying to figure out what their plan B is, and whether they take Bob Long or go for an offensive lineman. They've had 2 in seasons past, and they don't have any right now. So perhaps they go offensive line, here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And they moved up from pick 15 as well.
Yes.
Arguably a lot of value in the later rounds to get here, and then to find out that Carolina jumped them and more than likely taken their guy at 4. It's a bit of an ice to the heart potentially, but I guess it remains to be seen what AJ Levy and Jason are going to do with this particular pick.
Yeah, I think Eddie hit it on the head. I think they're scrambling to try and figure out who they're getting right now because it's taken a while. I think they were trying to get the tight end. And I'm not sure if they want to go with the Bob Long, knowing that he might be a rental per se. He might not stick around after a season. They might want to commit to the future. Max has been in chat a whole bunch in the Tacoma games. He's been there all the time, listen, paying attention. He's always in the chat on the show as well, talking. So I wonder if they're trying to make that switch now and try and contact Max to see if he'll come up and play with Sioux Falls.
Absolutely. Worth noting it's an outside shot, but there is a punter available on the board. You never know, I suppose. He's got some excellent value, KL Barrett Jr., so it's an outside shot, but I think defensive line is the go here.
Well, I'm not quite so sure because, KL Barrett Jr., his dad played for Mexico City back in the day before he recently retired. So perhaps he wants to go and follow his dad's footsteps in terms of being a one-player rental, a one-season rental.
That's a very good point. We've got it. The Sioux Falls pick is in. Let's turn it to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for pick number 5.
Thanks, Jacob. Just so the chat's aware, you have 5 minutes to make a selection, which Sioux Falls did, but we have to confirm that the player is available or can move a position, and then the graphic has to be made, and then so sometimes things lag behind, but it's nobody's fault except Father Time, and everything's going to be okay. Take a breath, enjoy the moment, why don't you? All right. With the 5th pick in the Season 20 SFL rookie draft, the Sioux Falls Sparrows select Hadrian Marlowe, offensive tackle. The 6th selection, that is San Diego. You are on the clock.
We got the position, but not the player. We'll pass this to Frank Wade first. I'm going to check if he is actually a natural offensive lineman or not.
He
pass it to you.
He is.
Cool.
Yeah, he in my second edition that I didn't post. I had Sioux Falls taking him. I had them taking 2 offensive linemen, Max being the first one, and then Harlow being the second one. So I got the right guy in the right position, just not at the same time. So it's a good fit for him, good pick. Any one of those linemen, Bill, slide in right there, and they're he's probably pleased that he's the first offensive lineman taken.
So, Eddie.
Crisis averted. I'm sure Bob Long and Canton just breathed a sigh of relief. Adrian Marlowe gone off the board from Lexington as offensive lineman. That leaves 2 left on the board. And the fact that he had the least value of the 3 offensive linemen goes to show you how well he may have interviewed, if in fact they did interview him. So congratulations to him.
And Daniel?
Yeah, to me, it's interesting that they picked Adrian over the other 2 talent-wise. But it'll be something to see if this now begins the trend of other teams now worrying about O-linemen and may want to try moving up or try and picking them right away to get them now before they all go out.
That's a good point. And look, obviously, again, internal discussions sometimes outweigh what you see in the public. We'll move to San Diego now. What a rebuild. I mean, Dave Axis kind of showed us all how it's done in restructuring an entire roster. I mean, they basically stripped it bare and when he took over the team and basically left a quarterback, a linebacker, and a couple of defensive backs on the team. And they filled that all but one spot in a free agency period. It was a spectacular array of signings from this organization and Zach Holdorf. And now, I feel like this one is pretty much a consensus, and I think if we're all sort of looking at the same way here, it's kind of a straightforward one. But I'll pass it to Frank Wade, irrespective of that. What do you think is the go here, Frank?
Well, I mean, everybody should know it's who's the running back and who's the receiver in the draft. That you have the same last name, so it's going to be Nakai. It fills a hole. It gets her onto the team with a lot of people that she already knows, and this pick should not take the whole 5 minutes.
No, I think you completely agree. I'll pass it to Eddie, nonetheless, if you can add about that one.
Well, like you said, the pick was probably turned in before the draft even started. They sent Cam a message, said, "Hey, this is who we're going with." Lily Nakai, it's a no-brainer. She doesn't have much value, but she'll be playing as a wide receiver 4, so there isn't much pressure on her to perform right out the gate. Next caller, come on, let's go.
Daniel.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that's Lily, but I'll throw some size here. Lily is probably one of the taller wide receivers at 6'6", so it'll be even at wide receiver 4, she'll be able to make those plays now. Maybe third and short, third or a bit, and get those first down. So it'll be good to have her at that kind of size.
It's a really big target. They can do quite a lot with against some of the slot defensive backs in this league. But the picks in Commissioner Cameron Irvine put us out of our suspense with the 6th pick.
With the 6th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the San Diego Mavericks select wide receiver Lily Nakai. The 7th pick, that's Queen City. You're on the clock.
No surprises. I think we kind of knew this one quite some time ago as soon as Charles crossed over to this team to be the president and head coach. And Lily joins this organization. Frank, any further reactions to this one?
No, it's a no-brainer. I would have been a total shock if they gone any other direction. 600-something yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. Daniel mentioned one of the tallest receivers in the draft class. One thing that she did do, 15.6 yards a catch. So that's pretty impressive right there.
Eddie, I mean, it's we sort of knew what this was going to be, but what, as a coach yourself, what does this kind of add to Charles's offense for the upcoming season?
As a team who just played with 4 wide receivers last season, I can tell you it adds an interesting dynamic to your offense, because as a head coach, you're more comfortable calling plays that you may not have called before and feel comfortable about it. Adding that 4th wide receiver. And another thing, Lily being 6 foot 6 inches tall reminds me of the Hands brothers. You can just throw passes out there and she can go and get it. And finally, with her value, she has the 2nd highest rated value of all eligible free agents, wide receivers assigned. So great pickup by San Diego. As Dave sends me a DM telling me to stop hating because I predicted the pick.
Daniel, any late reactions?
Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. I'm actually more excited to see how Queen City does with their picks because they got a lot of holes that they need to fill right now.
Green just earlier, Tom Welsh, the head coach of the Queen City Corsairs, and then one of the new co-owners of this organization, James and Eddie. You've spoken quite highly of Tom Welsh's efforts to get this team to, I think, a 6-6 record last season. They've lost a number of pieces. This team has got quite a lot of gaps to fill in their team, but certainly an esteemed group of leadership back in this organization between Welsh, now Michael Irvine, and Eric Barkley, James Klein. Looking ahead, we'll start with Frank. There's plenty of directions that this pick could go in. Two glaring needs defensively, but what do you think is the go here?
Yeah, a lot of holes. Quarterback is one. Again, I think they can get their quarterback later, and I think it's gonna have to be defensive line. They need a tackle, need two defensive ends. So this could be a place where Jason Bourne goes, but I think it's going to be a defensive end instead.
Yeah, completely agree. Eddie?
Queen City, if I'm running the ship over there, if I'm steering the ship, which I am not, but if I was the one steering the ship, I would consider trading down for more quality picks. They have a lot of holes in here, like you mentioned. But with Denver not taking a quarterback, if they don't trade down, this is when I pick up type attack. Like I said earlier, the guy scouts. It's hard to find, and it takes so much pressure off of that front office when you can get people in there to help. And I know they just made some changes in the ownership. I'm not sure if Bovine and company are going to be helping with that scouting. But if not, type attack is a guy, and I'm going to get him right now. Otherwise, I'm trading down.
And Daniel?
It makes sense if they're starting to rebuild a bit more. It makes sense to get a player pick that can scout and do stuff like type of attack. The quarterback makes sense in that field, but I actually think they're going defensive end as well, like Garrison said. I think they're going Dan Dash, maybe 6'3", 303, 62.01 bronze. I think that might be a good fit for them in the defensive end area.
Absolutely. I like all the takes. Again, they could do pretty much anything here with this first pick on their board. We'll pass it to Cameron O'Brien for pick number 7.
Thank you, Jacob. With the 7th overall pick in the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft, the Queen City Corsairs select strong safety G.B. Wallace. The 8th pick is Indianapolis by way of Carolina. You are on the clock.
So it's the value pick that they go with. They have no safeties. They go and grab a guy that is going to be able to start in the immediate term. G.B. Wallace, he was a member of the SFL in Season 5 and then carried over into Season 6 with the Auto Cavalry. He now has basically 1.5 seasons of value under his belt and is now a Queen City Corsair. We'll start with Frank Wade. Your reaction?
That was a surprise to me. I didn't see that one coming yet, but it's a good pick for Queen City because G.B. Wallace is a good athlete. I believe he's 6'2", 215, something like that, 6'1", 215.
213, yeah.
213, 87 tackles during the season. Had 4 pass defenses and 5 interceptions. So not only can he play close to the line and help you in the run game, defending the run game, but can also get into coverage and pick the ball off and turn the ball over for you.
It's a great call. It wasn't the quarterback, but a defensive player, in fact, a player that sits in your position. So I'm sure you of it. What are your thoughts here?
Well, like Frank said, 6'2", 213, 87 tackles. Man, what a linebacker is what I want to know. I mean, come on, guys. Can I get some help here? I can't do it all by myself. But 87 tackles through the course of 8 games? Oh, my goodness. I mean, no wonder they went out there and grabbed the guy. They felt he could be a difference maker in that defense. And I'm sure they'll find a way to use him properly to get him to be just productive in the pros as well.
For sure. And Daniel?
Well, it's actually interesting enough because there's only 2 bronze strong safeties in the draft. So if they wanted to get their number 1 strong safety, because he's going to have to play the first role, This is a good sell for them. I thought they could get GB Wallace a bit later in the draft personally. I think safeties naturally go a bit later in the draft. I would like to see them get their defensive end here. But if they're going to go number one, they get the value. They get the best strong safety of the two bronze strong safeties there are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're obviously playing a numbers game with the defensive line and waiting to see who might fall to a later pick, and obviously going to try and toy with Denver a little bit longer and keep us in some more suspense. Indianapolis, Chad Rowland, Chris Britton, Adam Wiseman, this team. So he's got a few gaps to fill after they sort of trimmed the fat from their first rookie draft. A couple of their first season players not returning. I'll start with Frank. What do you think is the direction that this team goes in with this pick?
The fourth wide receiver, second tight end, kicker is a possibility. I had them in the mock going with kicker. I think that might be the direction they go. Chad, he likes to throw some surprises. He keeps everything close to the vest and then tries to wow everybody with his choices on draft day. So this could be one of those wow picks you just don't expect coming, but I'm thinking it might be kicker here.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. Eddie?
Chad traded down. He had a higher pick. He traded down to this 8th spot. So he felt comfortable that the pick would still be there, whomever it was. There are a plethora of kickers in the league and not too demanding of a need for them. So I think either of those top 3 guys could still be available in the second round should he choose to have one. Excuse me, he now has 3 first-round picks. So I think kicker will be available later. If I'm Chad, perhaps I'm thinking fullback Jay Bomber Fouls here.
Yeah, that's a great shout as well. I'll pass it to Daniel real quick before we find out the pick.
Yeah, fullback is definitely a good choice. They need that. I actually, knowing Chad and his spicy picks, I actually thought he might go O-line because I know he converted himself to an O-line. Maybe he want to get a second one in there to try and do the London strategy of having a few offensive line players and make sure their running game is really strong over there in the Rambler country.
Very good point. And whether it be O-line or fullback, they're obviously gunning to potentially give to the 2 Pierces, their quarterback and new running back. But we'll see. We'll pass it to the commissioner for Chad Rowland's first pick of draft.
Thank you, Jacob. With the 8th overall pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Indianapolis Ramblers select Rob Hunt, wide receiver. Your 9th pick in this draft, that is Canton. You are on the clock.
Yes, and it is wide receiver. I think there was a gap in there for a potential wide receiver from Frank, and that's the direction that they go in. This guy, we've already spoken about the size of Lily and the Clay. Now we've got another 6'6" receiver off the board. He is huge. You should see his highlight tape, and there he is on screen. We'll pass it to Frank first. I think you were the one that put out that possibility. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Eddie kind of reminded me that the picks they have in the first round, they can get their kicker later. I did say kicker even before all that trade stuff went on, but now that they've done all that, they can get the kicker later. Great pick here. I told you at the beginning that I'm a big Rob Hunt fan. Whenever we first got in here and started talking about the draft coming up, I said I'm a big Rob Hunt fan and that he does a lot, very active in chat. He's helpful to others. I think he even helped with some of these guys doing their highlights and things like that. A big, tall receiver, 6'6", 240, and can get the job done. It's a great pick for Chad. And I told you, hey, wow pick, and there it is.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts on this one?
Chad traded down, picked up Rob Hunt. Great first round pick, first of all. I'm interested to find out why they decided to skip over Prince Wonder, who was wonderful, as they said yesterday in the championship game for Madison. But something he saw in the guy made him select him and was confident he'd be there at 8th overall. Again, another big physical receiver at 6'6". So congratulations to Chad, and he continues to prove once and time again that he's one of the better GMs in the entire SFL.
Absolutely. Daniel Wright, I'll let you finish it off.
Yeah, I think this is a very good steal, I want to say, for Chad and Ramblers. This guy's probably good enough almost to play in a third slot, and they're got him in the fourth slot. They're going to be very powerful on the offensive side. He's 6'6". We've seen the same thing with Lely going with San Diego. Another big receiver in that fourth slot. Should make it well known. He was very big for Tacoma with the big plays at the end of the games, or even for the long yards. So I can see him really making a good impact in the pros.
Cameron Curtis on the screen, the assistant GM for the Canton Classics, a very esteemed front office, and a team that we kind of have a general idea of what could potentially happen with these two picks, given the fact that they've got connections to quite a few of the rookies that are coming through this season. But I'll start with you, Frank. What are your thoughts here? And I think Gall is also in on the green room with now that's a step up from last season. If we remember his antics from last season, that's incredible. I think I'm very impressed with that. Frank, your thoughts on this pick?
Well, in my mock, I have him going fullback. I have him going with Buford Van Dam at fullback. But with the pick of GB, that might want their attention go toward the defensive backfield. So they may go strong safety here before they lose someone that they might be looking in a later round. They might try to grab him here.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts on the pick?
Honestly, this is one that has me stumped a bit as well. I'm not quite sure which way they're gonna go. But I was thinking about this one for a while and just could not come up with a solid answer as to what's going on here. It's my DMs are just blowing up. I'm trying to stay focused, but I guess you got to wait and see, just like everybody else.
Absolutely. Daniel, your thoughts?
So I also had them going fullback, but it's very interesting to say that the other tight end is still on the board, and this is supposed to be their guy. So do they pick him now or wait? It's very interesting to see. I personally have them going Buford Van Dam as well. 6'4", 255 fullback, really big, really imposing, can really get some good blocks for the running back to make some moves.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the prospects here. I think that looking at their roster, they've got 3 linemen already. There's a very good chance as well that they could throw Max Van Lynch into that mix as well. I believe he was one that is particularly fond of this organization. Potentially tight end. We've seen that one before. Could really be anything here. They've got they're in a good position in the sense that they're only having to worry about some backup positions, and they can kind of do whatever they want here. But plenty of directions that Michael Orr can go in, and could even dip into his own SFL team. He's sort of got he's got the lay of the land in front of him. Any further thoughts before? We got the pick. All right. Commissioner Cameron Irvine, who can move pick number 9.
With the 9th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Canton Classics select tight end Bob Lung. 10th pick is Las Vegas. You're on the clock.
So we go. We kind of saw that one coming, but we'll start with Frank Wade. What are your reactions to this pick?
Yeah, it's a good pick. Eddie mentioned at the beginning that was their guy, and it's a guy that they plan on. And one thing what Canton is trying to do is they're trying to gather guys on their team that are for the long haul, that are going to stick around. They don't want to pick here and then have to come back and pick another tight end next year. And this guy is a guy that wants to be around and be a part of the organization. So it's a good pick for them. Possibly a guy that could, I'm always a big fan of the tight end, obviously. So hashtag the tight end in Canton.
Absolutely, and he was on screen earlier. I can't remember his exact role, but he held a position in their front office for the last season, and then obviously had to take a break from that to focus on his minor league performances, and now gets the opportunity to step on the field for the team that he assisted with last season. Eddie Gage, your reactions to this pick?
Well, hopefully you guys caught on to the sarcasm when I said I had no idea who they're picking up. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to them. I'm sure they took a sigh of relief when Sioux Falls passed on them and decided to go offensive line instead. I'm sure Bob took a sigh of relief as well. So congratulations to all parties involved.
Absolutely. Dan, you're right. You can wrap this one up.
Yeah, I'm glad I was half right going with the tight end Bob Long idea, because he's the last tight end, and that's their guy. So it makes sense that they pick him up and not potentially lose them in the draft. Because there is speculation that some other team might take the only other tight end in the draft. We've seen already one get stolen.
Absolutely. All right, Las Vegas. They've only got the one pick tonight, I believe. So really anything. Justin Reside on camera there, the general manager of this organization. The pick is in his hands. I'll start with you, Frank. What do you think he could do with this selection? Frank's muted himself again. Frank stepped out. I'll pass it straight to Eddie then.
So Vegas comes in, and they've had an interesting offseason. You know, first of all, Max Jackson took a tremendous pay cut when he's not accustomed to taking. But they also moved John Blades from wide receiver to tight end, who in my mind was one of the more tougher deep threats to guard. I mean, no matter what you do, you can come out there and he's going to catch at least 2 deep passes a game. There's going to be nothing you can do about it, but move on to the next play. But they also moved Hubba Contrell from tight end to power back. So he's going to play alongside Scott Johnson as their finesse back. Interesting offseason, but they only have about 75.5 points left in cap this season to spend. So whichever direction they're going to go in, if it's going to be a third receiver, someone's going to have to take another pay cut and make some adjustments, you know, to their payrolls. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but maybe even they go fullback to make it a 3-headed backfield back there to replace Hubba, who played fullback last season.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank, you've jumped back in again, I think, so I'll pass it to you. Your thoughts on this Vegas pick?
In my mock, I had Rob Hunt going here. I think it's going to be a third wide receiver. This is where Eddie's boy could probably go, Prince Wonder, if the money, the value's right, the cap situation. Maybe you can slide in there. Maybe that's why Blades agreed to go to tight end, because they know of a guy that can be a deep threat and be that next person to step up.
Absolutely. Manuel, any further thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I also have them going wide receiver. I originally had him around him, but noticing their salary, John Fulton is a better fit. He's still a bit above cap, but it won't be much of a pay cut for anybody else to take, or he might even himself might take the slight cut in the end to make sure, because he's only 78. They're about like 76, 77 off, so it's not that big of a change. And I think this could be a good spot for him for being 6'4". He's still a tall guy.
Absolutely, and obviously, you know, I think fullback is still a good shout if they want to prioritize the run game. We've seen teams in the past under the 20-man roster spaces run with 2 wide receivers, so Vegas could potentially be that with the focus now on John Blades as a tight end, and we've only seen the 2 receivers come off the board, so they've still got some of those receivers that they can pick from, and also have got pick of the litter at fullback as well, and they can sort of go any direction they want. But I think it's interesting they divert away from probably one of the best receiving cores in the league between Blades and Mason Kirby, and they now run with Britton as a starter. So they've got that vacancy at the 3 spot. I think it seems that we're agreeing on the fact that that's probably the go here, but we'll see what Justin Reside has in store for us as we turn to Cameron Irvine for pick number 10.
Thank you, Jacob, and take this time on this program to shout out to everyone who is international, at least SFL headquarters. We have players from all over the world. Daniel Rice from Canada, Jacob Clear doing this show from Australia. We love technology and what it can do to us and bring us together. So shout out to everyone that is outside the States watching this draft this evening. With the 10th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Las Vegas Fury select Prince Wonder, wide receiver. The 11th selection, that is Atlanta. You are on the clock.
Eddie, you're a fan, but we'll start with Frank Wade. Your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I thought with the movement of Blades to tight end that they were going to go wide receiver and get that. They elevated Doug Britton, and they're needing a guy that's going to be able to stretch the field and get that deep stuff, and you can have Britton up underneath and everything. And Prince Wonder is one of those guys that can do that. Very productive, did a good job in the All-Star game, and also played very, very well in the championship game.
Absolutely, good point. And Eddie, you've acted for him. Obviously, you've got quite a bit of knowledge about his character and what he's going to provide this Vegas organization. What are your reactions on this?
Well, he plays for the Madison Lynx, and my new GM, Nathaniel Diggs, he dreams, sleeps, and thinks about Madison all day, every day. He picks them every week to win, and he's always talking about them. So I can't help but get familiarized with that organization. But Prince Wonder at 6'4", 185, one of the taller receivers, but also very slender. He's going to get in the weight room and put on some pounds. But, Vegas, they have that vertical deep threat, so I'm sure they have ways that they plan on using them. And it'll be interesting to see how they do so. Moving John Blades to tight end, they're going to have that 2 tight end threat as well. So very interesting offense and a new dynamic for that team. But like I said, with them being Prince Wonder's being at 81.83, so practically 82 points of cap, they got to make some changes and shred some some animations, some attributes around somewhere to make this contract work out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All your thoughts?
Well, Prince Wonder will be the best on the board as of now, so it makes sense for them to go that route. But it is a big cap hit, like Eddie was saying. So that's why I thought they might have gone John Fullerton. There's a bit less of a cap hit, maybe a bit easier for their stat and animation cuts. But if they're going to go big, I guess Prince Wonder is the way to go, big.
Absolutely. And look, we're pretty content with that pick. A great character and someone who I'm sure Justin Reeside interviewed extensively, and now a member of this potent Las Vegas Fury offense that likes to throw the football. We turn our attention to the Atlanta Swarm, another team with a couple of backup positions that they could potentially look at filling. I'll start with you, Frank Wade. What are your thoughts on this pick?
Fourth wide receiver here, but the biggest need, defensive end. I think they're going to go there. Could be somebody like a LL Volt or a Dash, but they need a pass rusher and a guy that can contain the edge. So I think it's going to go DN here. I had them pick in my mock Anthony Robinson out of Lincoln.
Yeah, I like that call. I like the look of that build. I think he's someone who could make a real impact. Eddie, do you share the sentiment?
So Atlanta has traditionally played with 4 defensive linemen. And to me, this pick is easy to make because you think about it, they need a defensive end. We all know that, right? And Mickey Gibson played for Albuquerque last season, who's coached by who? Defensive tackle Joshua Williams. So in my opinion, that's the guy they go and get. But if they do so, they're going to shred just a little bit of cap from somewhere in order to make that contract work out.
It's doable. I love it. Daniel, I'll let you wrap it up before we get the pick.
Yeah, I think we're going defensive end. I feel that I had them going LA Volt at the time, but Dan Das is still on the board. I like the shout that Eddie just had. Originally, I say it would be LA Volt, 6'6", a tall guy, really good get pressure in. That would be my way to go, but I could still see them getting Dan Das now that he's still there.
Sure thing. All right, we'll turn this one to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for the 11th overall pick.
Thank you, Jacob. With the 11th overall pick in the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft, the Atlanta Swarm select Mickey Gibson, defensive end. Pick number 12, Tulsa. You're on the clock.
I'll have to double check, but was this your guy, Eddie?
Yes, it is.
It is. I'll let you start this one off. Your thoughts on the pick?
Well, like I said, he plays for Albuquerque. He just won, back-to-back championships with them, and he's coached up by Joshua Williams, who plays for Atlanta. So, they tend to call it like their sister franchise down there, and they got Brian Dynasty down there. They got Sioux down there helping out. Joshua Williams down there helping out. So they have a great familiarity with the guy already. It was just a natural fit for him. But just like I said, they got about 1 or 2 points of cap. They're going to have to figure out where they're going to make some changes on their roster to make this work.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Swole is their defensive coordinator as well. So I think he's going to have his hands all over this build and is going to know exactly how to incorporate his player into his playbooks every week. We'll go back to Frank. Your thoughts on the selection?
Well, I mean, right position, different person for me though. I'm nothing against Mickey Gibson. They go with somebody they're familiar with. He's got a good build and is going to be productive in their system, and so you can't go wrong with that pick. And Eddie, give your chalk one up to Eddie for calling that one out before it was announced.
Absolutely. And Daniel, your thoughts on the pick?
Yeah, this is a good pick. Pick someone you're familiar with, someone you can build with, someone that will stick with you. I think is what we're seeing a lot with a lot of these teams right now. They want people that they can rely on for seasons to come. And if you know this guy already in the minors, his character, how he is. It makes sense. This is the pick for them.
Absolutely, and you're seeing one of the many highlight reels we'll hopefully be showcasing this evening on screen earlier. The many plays that Mickey made for his Albuquerque Adams in the minor leagues as we turn our attention to the Tulsa Desperados, a team. This is Marco Swift on camera, the general manager for this organization. He also is the head coach, I believe, of the Lexington Miners. So something to potentially mind as this pick comes in. I'll start with you, Frank. Where do you think Tulsa are going to go with this pick?
Well, looking back at their past rosters and everything, the one thing I see missing is a fullback, and possibly going to be going that direction. There's some good fullbacks out there: Buford Van Dam, Jay Balmer, Kane Hunter. Some good builds out there. I think Balmer 6'4", Van Dam 6'5". Both around 245, somewhere right around there. So they can't go wrong with either one of those. I think it's going to be one of those two picks at fullback.
Absolutely. And before I pass to Eddie, because I know this is his guy, I'm thinking on the same parallels, Nathaniel Diggs, the fact that Berto Demora was the longtime head coach of the Madison Lynx before becoming a co-owner for this team. He may well be looking at Jay Barmer, the Madison fullback, but I'll let Eddie potentially weigh in on that.
You stole my thunder there in regards to the coaching down there, but Jay Barmer, perfect fit, man. I love that guy. I love his energy. He's a selfless player. He just wants to be in the locker room and have fun. He doesn't necessarily care about his own individual stats. When we had a need for fullback, we were looking at him heavy. He was our number one choice up until we ended up signing a free agent of our own in Justin Williams. So Jay Balmer, hopefully this guy gets picked up because I love that guy.
Completely agree, and fantastic insight. Neil, any late thoughts?
I think it's going to be a fullback. There's a plethora of them. You could take anyone. Buford Van Dam is still on the board, so it makes sense for them to take them. I thought Buford was going to go already, so I had Kane Hunter as my pick, but knowing that Buford's still there, I think it's time for him to get picked up.
I think it's an interesting thought that we've mentioned, again, the potential picks here at the fullback position. I think it's a fairly shallow class of all of the options available are quite impressive and all possess great characters, and I think it's hard for Tulsa really to go wrong if that's the direction they're looking at. But I too agree. Yeah, Jay Balmer prediction. I'll pass it to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for pick number 12 in the season 20 draft.
With the 12th pick in the season 20 SFL rookie draft, the Tulsa Desperados select fullback Lars Bazar. The 13th pick is Fort Worth's. You're on the clock.
See, okay, here's the thing. I actually feel like we got the SFLM team wrong because from memory, Lars Bazar is the Madison fullback, not Jay Barnes. We got our lines crossed there. So it is a fullback. It is the Madison fullback, but it's not Jay Balmer. It is Lars Bazar. And I'll pass it to Frank Wade. This is a name we didn't bring up, but someone who I believe I had mocked and completely forgot. We'll start with Frank. Your reactions to this pick?
Well, that's a name I didn't expect. Of course, we all agreed on the position. I thought it was going to be, Van Dam or Balmer. But one thing that this guy does that stands out more than any of the other fullbacks, catches a lot of balls out of the backfield. So I don't think there's very many rushing stats for him. Blocking for the tailback is his job, and catching the ball out of the backfield. And I think he had 14 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown out of the backfield. So that's probably why they brought him there.
That's a good point, and an interesting point of that, because it's something that I've experimented with myself with my own coaching. I've got 6'4" fullback Terrell Sutherland that you kind of can use these fullbacks as extra tight ends in the passing game when so they can shoot them up through the line or out to the outside. You've sort of got that flexibility, and this position's just seeing more and more versatility on the field than it has in previous seasons. Eddie, I'll pass. We were kind of on the same wavelength. We just didn't quite get it right. Your thoughts on the pick?
On the same wavelength, didn't quite get it right. Just kind of surprised. I wonder what they saw in Lars that made them pick him up. There's two other fullbacks ahead of him with more value. So perhaps it was something in the interview process that got him to stick out above the others. So congratulations to Tulsa. Not sure what they saw in him, but whatever it was, made them decide to pick him above those others, and they got a good pick.
Absolutely. Again, it's all about the internal. As we look at Fort Worth, Aaron Alexander, the general manager of that organization, I'll let Daniel Wright touch on that pick by Tulsa.
Yeah, it's strange because I think we picked every fullback besides him to potentially go to Tulsa. So it's interesting to see how they came to that mindset. Because there's definitely some better ones, I think, stat-wise, that might be able to help out Tulsa. But if this is the guy they feel good with, you can't go wrong. This is their pick.
Completely agree. Fort Worth GM Aaron Alexander, another member of a minor league coaching staff, and one of the individuals who I regard as one of the better analysts in the broadcast space in this league. I'll start with you, Frank. Who do you think Fort Worth is going to go with here?
Well, the past couple of seasons, they've had two running backs on their roster. They're down to one right now with Williams leaving. I don't think it's going to be running back here. Defensive tackle is a position of need. Jason Bourne's still out there, and a couple other guys that they could select here. So I think it's going to be a defensive tackle.
You're a big advocate for Jason Bourne. Is that someone you've had conversations with in the past, or what's the drive behind him being your top choice for defensive tackle?
Not a guy that I've had conversations with, but just his build. He's a big guy. Stat wise, he's very productive. It's a position that they need, and so with the build that he has, I think he would fit in. Right, and he can fit in with any team because of the build. But with them needing a defensive tackle, I would think Jason Bourne right here.
Yeah, for sure, and he lines up alongside a real unit of a defensive tackle in Luther Gons, who won Defensive of the Year. Potentially, now he did that with Louisiana, but potentially another Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate could come out of this draft alongside Luther Gons. Eddie, your thoughts on this potential pick?
So Fort Worth has about 134 points left in cap, but they have 2 players to sign. So they have to be very strategic with this pick. I'm not sure which way they're going to go. However, what I am looking at is perhaps, the fact that Aaron Alexander plays for them, but he also coaches as an assistant down in the minors. Maybe they're looking at, maybe TJ Assassin in this draft.
That's a good point, and yeah, very possible. Daniel Wright, your thoughts on?
Yeah, I originally had them going Jason Bourne as well for this pick, but Mel Gibson is still on the board, I do believe, as well. So, but if they're going to go cheaper, because they do have to make 2 picks, I think Kano Forson is probably good. 6'3", so he's only 1 inch taller, 1 inch shorter than Jason Bourne, still just as big, a little less in caps take up, so he might be the way to go. But I think it's still going to be Jason Bourne.
All right, about 2 on the Jason Bourne. Pass it to Commissioner Cameron O'Brien for Fort Worth's first pick of the draft.
With the 13th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Fort Worth Toros select defensive tackle Melt Gibson. Houston, you're on the clock with the 14th selection.
Daniel Wright with the late shout, and it is the correct one. I'll pass it to you on this one, seeing as you were the one that proposed this one. Your thoughts on the pick?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Mel Gibson is still on the board this late. So I guess this might be a steal for them, because I originally had him going Jason Bourne, but with the fact that they're going with probably the best statted overall person, he's a bit on the short side, 5'10" in that position, but still big to make the tackles as necessary. I think this is the pick that they want to get and get the seal for it.
Absolutely. We'll go back to Frank. Your thoughts on this selection?
I thought the build, like Daniel said, 5'10", 305, heavy, but not very tall as far as defensive line goes. But maybe he was a wrestler back in the day, and he knows how to use leverage and all that stuff. And nothing against him. I mean, stat wise, he produces. And again, these owners. And Eddie can contest to this. The owners are looking for people that are going to want to stay with them long term, and so maybe this is one of those guys that they know they'd be able to hang on to for a while.
As we look in on Devon Simeon, the owner of Houston Headhunters, we'll pass it to Eddie. Eddie, we've brought up both of the other analysts have brought up height as a potential interest for this player. How much does height matter for this particular position?
For defensive tackle, you always want to have taller guys to make it harder for quarterbacks to see over. But those shorter guys, they can use that as leverage as well. I mean, you look at guys like Aaron Donald of the LA Rams. He uses his short stature to get off the line. He's one of the quicker guys off the ball in terms of, the snap count. So shorter doesn't always necessarily mean, that they're worse in terms of if you look at the position of the defensive tackle. But he is kind of short, 5'10", 305. That's a lot of weight for that frame. So we'll see how it affects him long term as the season wears along. But, like I said, he is coached up by Aaron Alexander over there in Fort Worth. So there's like we said with Atlanta, some familiarity there. And congratulations on the pick.
Yeah, it's another. We've seen a couple of instances where we've had an SFL coach turn GM, take one of their own. And it's an interesting point you make, because I cycle back to the fact that they do have Luther Gond on the outside of that defensive line, that D tackle. So potentially him being I think a more sizey player, they could potentially have a bit of an interesting dynamic in the middle of that defensive line. We'll turn our attention to Houston, who have the solitary pick tonight after they confirmed 2 late offensive line signings with Taylor Meta and Barry Simeon crossing the line after deadline once it was all confirmed. We'll start with Frank. Where do you think Houston's going with this only pick?
I think we're going to see the first cornerback taken right here. I think they need a slot guy. that's going to be a need here. And I think the guy and I put him down in my market is Ricky Robinson from Albuquerque, 5'11", 198. I think he was maybe second or third in interceptions in the league. And I think he's going to be a big plus for any team that drafts him, but I think he's going to fit in right here with Houston.
It's a great shout. They had Angel Maldonado last season, who then went across to Indy, so they've got a vacancy at that DB5 spot. Eddie, your thoughts on the pick?
Houston needs a nickel back to complete their roster. But they've also, they could go corner, but they traditionally have gone with safeties, both free and strong, as that nickel back. So perhaps they're looking elsewhere, like a John Patrick Levine, like you said, a G.P. Wallace. Who knows? Maybe even Todd Rigsby gets his first shot at being called tonight. So I don't know. I mean, it's all over the place. They can go corner, free safety, or strong, but it's definitely going to be a member of the secondary for sure.
Absolutely. Daniel Wright, your thoughts pick?
I agree that's going to be someone in the second round. I actually have got Adam Nold from the Navigators, 6'2", 200 pounds. Just the size alone would be a good pick for them, for Houston, in the cornerback spot.
Absolutely. We'll turn this pick to the Commissioner Cameron Irvine for Houston's selection at pick 14.
With the 14th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Houston Headhunters select cornerback J.W. Hartshorn. The 15th selection belongs to, drumroll please, Jacksonville from Sioux Falls. You're on the clock.
Absolutely. I love this pick. Hartshorn, a really active member. He was writing mock drafts up into the of last night, interacting with the community. He, to me, was the cornerback one on the draft board, and he gets a really good opportunity for this organization, who are still yet to really take off under this rebuild, but a rebrand rather. But he cannot speak enough for his character, and excited to see him get taken. We'll start with Frank. Your thoughts on the pick?
No, it's whenever Daniel mentioned Adam Nold, he popped into my head thinking, oh wait, the other corner, 6'3", 205, 7 pass defenses, 2 or 3, 4 interceptions, but a big size corner, very active in chat, very positive around, and that's what a lot of owners are looking for: guys that are positive, guys that can help in the front office and off the field, and he's one of those guys. So it's a very good pick for Houston.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts on the selection?
Houston has the cap room to make a bigger splash and pick up someone with more value. So it must have been something in the interview process that they saw in JW to make them draft him this early. But like you said, great character guy. He created one of the mock drafts. We came out here. I sent him a direct message, told him, hey, man, your mock draft is one of the better ones I've ever seen, and I've seen a ton of them this season as well as previous seasons. And he's already shown me versions of one he's going to use for next season. So perhaps it's what he can do for Houston off the field to make them step up and draft this young man. And he's a great guy, like you said, very active in the community, doing things off the field. So he's going to be a great addition to that Houston locker room.
Jorge Torres, the newly minted general manager in the Jacksonville Kings organization underneath Frank Gooden and the rest of that team, as they look to rebuild their roster. Plus, for your reactions to this Houston pick.
Yeah, so he was actually an honorary mention that I forgot to mention, I suppose, for this, because it's funny enough, in his mock draft, he picked himself in this spot. So I guess he knew something we all didn't.
I should have picked up on that. It's a good point. All right, Jacksonville is a team that, again, it's a situation in Queen City where they've sort of torn everything up. Lots of potential directions that they can go in. They're I think the only team is a starting running back in this draft, to my memory. So that probably rules that out in the immediate term. But Frank, What's the do for the Kings?
Well, these rookies are starting to notice that this is not your traditional NFL draft. You're picking positions of need and things like that, and you're seeing O-line, and you'll see kickers go and things like that. And you've got a couple of stud running backs sitting there that nobody's touched yet. You got a couple of quarterbacks that are going to go that nobody's touched yet. This is the only team that needs a running back, so they can afford to wait until their very last pick if they want to. And pick their running back. We've seen that before with O'Shaughnessy. And so you've seen how it all falls right here. I'm thinking with position of need, other than running back, outside linebacker is a position of need. I had Geno McFly going here, but it could be TJ Harper or Creech. It could be a pick for him right here.
Yeah, I like the call on TJ Harper there. It's an interesting one, a name that we haven't discussed yet. Eddie, your thoughts on the selection?
Sorry. My DMs are blowing up, but yeah, the Jacksonville, you're right, they are over the map as to what they need. So shout out to them for deciding to make some trades and decide to go quality over quantity. And I think their biggest needs are in the secondary and obviously linebackers. So perhaps for me, I'm going out and grabbing either Adam Nola or Nano Matthews.
I like Nano Matthews. That's a good call. Daniel, wrap this one up for us.
Yeah, so from what I was looking, they need 2 linebackers and 2 cornerbacks. That's a major position need. 2 outside linebackers is usually what they ran in the past season. So TJ Harper still being there. He originally was my pick, but noticing how low safeties are in terms of stats or corners, we just lost a corner as well. They could go corner here, but I originally picked was TJ Harper because he's still around and he's probably he's very vocal. So maybe this is the pick that they got. They like their vocal people around Jacksonville. Yes,
they definitely need a leader in the locker room, and that would be a justifiable first selection given how Harper has fallen rather. I'll turn this one to Commissioner Cameron O'Brien, who have Jacksonville taken for their first pick.
With the 15th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Jacksonville Kings select Dill Swayze, wide receiver. The 16th pick. You are on the clock. That is the DC Dragons.
It's always a fun time when the panel is completely off. They do not go on the defensive side of the ball and take a wide receiver. Frank, your thoughts on the pick?
They've got a lot of places they can go. Eddie said it; they're just all over the map, and they're trying to build something over there. They are trying to get back to their glory days, and Swayze had a good All-Pro game, and he stood out to me in that light. I think they could have gone somewhere else first and then come back and picked him up later, but this is what they decided to do. So good luck to them.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, the fact that they've got 2 receivers already in Chris Bocelli. They signed in free agency, and Kingston Ellington in return, so they actually opt to take a backup position and not fill one of their starting spots. Eddie, your thoughts on this pick?
I'm shocked. Like you said, he's going to be the 3rd wide receiver on the depth chart, and they have glaring needs in the secondary and that linebacker. So, wow. I mean, Frank's been a winner for a long time in this league, so I'm not going to question his motives or his methods, but that's puzzling to me.
Daniel, are you thinking the same thing here?
It's definitely a surprising pick. It's not a pick I would have made personally because you definitely need help in the defensive side, especially needing two linebackers. You don't know how the draft is going to go. You should pick up maybe one now or maybe one corner now, and then maybe get a deal in the second round for another one. But I think you could have waited on wide receiver personally.
It seems we're in consensus on the surprise of the pick as we turn our attention. I mean, obviously Jacksonville have got plenty of time to fill out those backups, but they potentially sacrifice some value at those positions by opting to take their guy at wide receiver 3. But we'll turn our attention to the DC Dragons. They're dipping into the draft a few times again. This is a team that has quite a rich history with the rookie draft. Destro and Stephen Mullinax, the leadership group of this team. I'll start with you, Frank.
He does a very good job of building that team and doing a good job of keeping people together as much as they can. Glaring need is defensive tackle, and Jason Bourne's still out there, but there's also, I have in my mock draft St. Melchizedek, if I'm saying the last name correctly. I've got him going there, but with Jason Bourne still there at 320 pounds, he can eat up a lot of space for linebackers to make plays. I think that's the direction I would go.
Absolutely. Eddie, this leadership group is a couple of them have made quite a few appearances on your show, so you know them rather well. What do you think they're doing with this pick?
So, as Frank said, they need a defensive tackle, and there's a couple good ones out there, but my money is on Kano Fortson. Don't ask me why. I know he doesn't have as much value as the others, but that's my pick.
Interesting. We'll see if that one is eventually an option here. It is the pick's in. I'll let Daniel run us through the other potential options here.
Yeah, I won't go too far into it. I actually had defensive tackle in this spot. I originally had Robert Thump. He went much earlier, but Jason Bourne is still on the market, so that might be the way to go. If they want to surprise us all, they might go corner, but I think that defensive tackle is a much more needed spot for them.
Seems we're in consensus almost on the defensive tackle move with Jason Bourne still on the board. We'll toss it to Commissioner Cameron O'Brien for pick number 16.
With the 16th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Kano Fortson, defensive tackle. The 17th pick is Mexico City's. You are on the clock.
Eddie's got it. I'll pass it to Eddie. You can analyze this one as a start.
Destro, I met him in person, and I've known him for a long time. But he is one of the more cheapest people I know on this planet other than myself. I'm cheap. My nickname used to be short arms with deep pockets, and he's cheaper than me. So, when it comes out to going out and signing free agents or rookies or anyone else for that matter, he always goes, man, but they cost so much. Bro, it's not like it's your money. But that's the way he is. He likes to develop guys and build players the way he chooses fit. He has a vision in mind, and the success they had these past couple of seasons, I can't knock him for it. He has a vision and he gets the job done. And I'm assuming, knowing Destro, he has guys fill out the application, and he talks to them thoroughly. Some of that guy he saw, and there you have it. He's cheaper, and he had a great application, and he decided to sign him.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of had to do that after they pushed out the John Gary contract, their defensive end, over 90 points in value. That was a real focal point of this roster in particular. Frank, your thoughts on this DC Dragon selection? Again,
You got a team and a front office that are picking guys that they think are going to be with them for the long haul. DC does a good job of getting people and retaining them and getting them in position to win games and getting these players in a position to get their name out there. As I think it's a good choice. It wouldn't have been my choice, but I think it's a good choice because Destro, gets to know these people before he, selects them. So he studied them very well and is comfortable with that pick.
Eddie, we'll pass it to Daniel. I've already on to Eddie. Daniel, your thoughts on the pick?
Well, not only is he cheaper, but I think with a name like Destro, I think he likes the names as well. We got Kano coming in on the slate, so I'm sure a name has to do a little bit with. We also know that he likes Pate Pate, the kicker for DC Dragon. So Kano is a good pickup, bit on the cheaper end. It's interesting that Jason's still on the table though, even at this point.
We have a trade, gentlemen. Charleston trades up and gets Mexico City's 17th. They will also get Mexico City's 39th. In exchange, Mexico City gets the 20th and 32nd selections. The clock resets, and Charleston is on the clock with the 17th pick.
My GM has gone and made a trade, and I had literally no idea that this was happening. I've had my full focus on this. Obviously, he's got a guy in mind that he wants here, and he's executed a move to try and get him. So my team's back on the clock. Let's shift our attention to Charleston. Frank will do the rounds again.
Got to scramble my pages here because I was looking up all my Mexico City stuff, and so looking quickly, you settled the outside linebacker position. The one hole I see was possibly offensive line. There's one of those big offensive linemen sitting there that can be very beneficial to the run game and also protect the quarterback. So I think it might be O-line here. Max Van Lidge probably going to be the pick.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts on the pick?
Well, first I have a question, Jacob. What is your role with Charleston?
Well, I'm the co-owner, and I also still coach the offense. So that's still my responsibility. And then I've sort of left drafting up to. I've built the roster, but I leave the drafting to more intelligent people on the subject, given that I'm no longer in the minor leagues. So there's your answer.
Yeah, I was just curious because you're the owner and you had no idea this trade was coming. But that's what's up, man. Shout out to your front office. But as far as what they're doing, I don't know. DB was on my show a couple of times, and he guaranteed that once they play the Scorpions later in the season, that Jay Hayden, that new receiver from Arizona, will get 200 yards receiving. So perhaps they want some offensive line help to keep our front four off of them. Maybe they go in front with the offensive lineman right here.
I actually have to make a stand correction because I've just received word from my own front office that was former Mexico Aztec himself, Jack Brown, who initiated this trade. So sort of it's all a bit of a mess at the moment, but we've worked it out. There he is. There's my boy, Terrell Sutherland, in the draft room, about to push this pick through. And I'll turn it to Daniel. Where do you think this is going?
Well, no matter how you get there, eventually you get there, right, Jacob? So we're eventually getting to the pick. But it's probably going to be an O-line. We've seen that a few of them are still there. Max is still there, which is an interesting one. If they really wanted to go interesting, because we did see a lot of wide receivers go off the board as well, they might go for a fourth wide receiver and maybe get easy money, maybe get someone to fill that fourth spot. But if they're moving up, and we know Mexico City's moving down, and in my mind, they're looking for a kicker. There's plenty of kickers still on the board there. So O-line seems like a good shout. Fourth wide receiver could also be a shout.
Absolutely. And I can assure you, I think we have got a kicker and a punter. We've done the special teams coach move. So we've got that sorted. This could go in other directions. I think we're only looking at our backup positions now. So I'm certainly curious to see what we've got in store. I'm sort of in the lurch at the moment. Any further thoughts before we receive this pick?
It's either offensive line or a sixth guy in the secondary.
Gotcha. Thank you, panel. What's the Charleston pick at number 17?
You never know what's going to happen in an SFL rookie draft. I hope someone catches Chris Curtis by surprise tomorrow, because there's nothing better than a host getting caught by surprise. With the 17th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Charleston Predators trade up to get free safety Matt Ryan. The 18th selection belongs to London. Liam, it's late. Wake up. You're on the clock.
This is Robert Cherry's guy. He was a candidate for the 1 overall pick when we were doing our early investigations, and the fact that we can get in here at 17 is huge for us. So I'll start with Frank. Your reaction to this pick?
Didn't see it coming, but it is a very good pick. Ryan is a good guy in the locker room, good guy in the chat, very helpful to the others around. Stat wise, very productive. So very good pick for Charleston here.
Hey, you were on the defensive line. Your thoughts on this pick?
Matt Ryan doesn't have much value, but it must have been something in the interview process, like I said earlier with DC, that made you guys decide to trade up to get him. You know, like I said, he only has a value of 57.44 right now, but he's a tall receiver, 6'1", 211. So he, let's see, free safety. So he has some height and weight on him. And, as a 6 DB, it's going to be curious to see how they use him.
Well, again, I kind of can speak for the fact that the new defensive coordinator, Robert Cherry, this is a guy that he had as a backup defensive back in class. So this is a pick that, to me, it's one of those things. It's that track from SFLM team to SFL. And as we look in on Liam Crowder, it's probably some ungodly hour there in the UK, but he's hanging in there for his first pick of the draft. We'll pass to Daniel for your reactions to the previous pick.
Yeah, so I know Robert Sherry a fair bit. He's on Minor League Fight Insights whenever he can, talking about the Ottawa team. So it makes sense that you take someone close to home, someone you're familiar with, someone that you know will be with you for a while. That's what we're seeing a lot in the draft. We're not seeing necessarily the best build or the best overall. We're seeing people that they think that they can keep for the long term, because we know a team built to last will make more waves in the future going through seasons forward, I should say.
Completely agree. And Liam looking confident. This London Knights organisation, he's still celebrating, it seems, the award of Robert Merrill as MVP. And this team, still with that terrific defence, despite the loss of Tanner Hendricks, they've remained a lot of the key pieces in this team. Frank, where do you think London's going with this pick?
Well, last year they were shocking everybody by drafting offensive linemen, and you saw the results with Robert Merrill and his success. The season before, it was, you didn't hear from Robert Merrill very much, and then this season he lit it up with the addition of the offensive line. They could add a fullback here to help him in the run game. But they also needed a linebacker, and you can see somebody like, again, I'm a big fan of TJ Harper, but you can see Harper go here, or maybe Stan Diamond, somebody like that, or a Creech.
I like all those shots. I think I had TJ Harper mocked to here, but it's also interesting you touch on fullback. They lost Tiberius Bovine to Queen City in that ownership switch. Eddie, your thoughts on the pick here?
That was my thought as well. I mean, Robert Merrill came out, had an MVP season. He was just awarded that trophy yesterday. And they need a fullback to step up to block for him next season now that Bovine is gone. And if Jay Bomber doesn't get picked here, I'm going to have some problems, because I'm going to call for a full-blown investigation as to why this young man is still out there looking for a home.
Completely agree. Picks in, but Daniel, do you have any late thoughts on what we've already said?
Yeah, so London had the success on offense last season, and missing a fullback, I think Originally, I thought they were going to go fullback as well, and I'm still going to stick with it. They did lose one O-lineman, I think, this season compared to last season, so they probably want to fill up the fullback spot. Just make sure Merrill can keep going on his merry way.
Absolutely. The picks in, Commissioner Cameron Irvine to announce the 18th pick of the draft.
With the 18th pick in the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft, the London Knights select outside linebacker Jacob Creech. The 19th pick is to the 3-time defending champs Baltimore. You are on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, Frank. You're the closest to it. I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this pick?
Oh, it's a good pick. I mean, as far as tackles go, Jacob Creech was leading the linebackers in tackles, 6'3", 240. Very, very active. He's active in chat. One thing that stood out to me is the 19 tackles for loss at the linebacker position, which means he's flying to the football. So I think that's a good choice. It was very fortunate for London that he was still sitting there.
And before I pass this on, we'll take a quick moment to give a shout out to all the rookies who have taken the time to pass in highlight tapes to the league for just this extra element of depth to the presentation that we're able to put out. And fantastic job by Commissioner Cameron Irvine to produce this and get all these elements together in the one space. It's just a fantastic addition to see the amount of highlight reels we've been able to watch as these picks get put out across the first 20 picks or so. And I'll pass it to Eddie. Your thoughts on the pick? Still no Jay Barmer.
No Jay Barmer, but they still win with this pick. You know, they went outside linebacker, decided to get that third spot filled up, so he's going to play across the strong side of the offense. And great pick. You know, like you said, active guy, one of the better athletes, despite the fact that, you know, he doesn't have as many progressions as some of his peers. But great guy, man, 240 pounds. I don't know what these feed these players nowadays, but 6'3", 240, that's a lot of muscle on that guy. But yeah, great pickup for him, and I'm glad he's found a home.
He's a giant of a man, and someone who, again, I think you've touched on routinely just how incredible this London defense has been, that Liam sort of sculpted over the course of 2 seasons, and then it really took flight last season. Again, needs to replace a couple of pieces. I think he's got a fantastic option here as the second outside linebacker on this depth chart. Daniel, I'll let you wrap this one up for us.
This is an amazing pick. Jacob has been known to be very vocal in chat and games. Even watching the Tacoma, another Tacoma guy, I'm super proud of him to be picked. He gets around the field a lot quicker than he's sized left on. So it's actually interesting to see how quickly he moves from one side to the other to make the tackles. So he'll definitely be a run stopper. I think he'll actually even be able to get out to maybe guard some people on the outside. He's definitely a guy to watch out for and force come for the London defense.
Absolutely. And we shift our attention to T-Roy Gaines, Thomas Pataniti, and Tim Johnston, the ownership group and leadership of this esteemed Baltimore Vultures organization that succeeded over Eddie Gage's Arizona Scorpions for yet another title last season. I hate to remind him of it, but it's worth touching on just how successful this team has been. I think I know what they're doing here, but I'm going to pass it to Frank to start us off here.
You know, what does the defending defending SFL champions need? I mean, they've
nothing
won 3 years in a row. So I mean, my gosh, they got one roster spot to fill. The only place I think they can go is wide receiver here, and I think this is where Daniel's guy, Easy Money, gets picked.
Yeah, I think I was on the same track as that one. I like that shout, and I think that's a fantastic option for them. Eddie, your thoughts on this Baltimore selection?
Well, they put out in the SFL Discord a couple of weeks ago that they were searching for a person to play wide receiver for, and I'm assuming they didn't get any hits on it, so they go into the draft, and they still have 80 points approximately left of cap, so they can take that pretty much that pick of the litter who all is left. Anyone on this board is going to be a fine addition to that franchise, and to me, it's a shame because they just find a way to use everyone so effectively, and they should be forced to sit out a season with only playing 22 players this season.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a fantastic option. Daniel, I think you're on the same track as us here, but I'll double check.
Oh, definitely. I actually made a note to mention, because Eddie mentioned the cap. Easy Money fifth at 78.65. So he fits under the cap. So he fits perfectly for the Baltimore offense right now. So I think this is Easy Money's time to shine.
Absolutely. And I think we're all in consensus on this one. It's a fantastic character who's another one, I think, who put out a highlight reel. A member of the flex squad that was going around among leagues, incredibly active individual. We'll pass it to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for pick number 20.
With the 19th pick in the SFL's Season 20 rookie draft, the Baltimore Vultures select wide receiver David Anderson.
Ooh.
Your 20th pick belongs to Mexico City. Got it from Charleston. I knew I had it somewhere. You're on the clock, finally, Aztecs.
Okay, well, we were a little bit too eager on that one because we got the position but not the player. Frank, your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, we got the position right. The player is a little bit of a shock, but again, what do you need to add to this team? It's a well-oiled machine. You just you lose one piece, throw another piece in, and they just keep on moving. And this is what the rest of the league is trying to strive to obtain, is to get to this position.
Eddie, we're slightly off, but your thoughts on this pick?
I should have known this is where they were going. I mean, you look at that Baltimore receiving core. Ivory Irvin, 6'4". Mac Chima, 6'4". Daily Holder, 6'4". And now they pick up David Anderson. He's 6'4", 217. So, I mean, talk about the rich getting richer once again. Baltimore, come on, man. Y'all got to give us a break. Pretty soon, everyone's going to be looking for corners that are 6'6" and up, because Baltimore out here is just cheating, man.
Yeah, this is a fantastic build, and a great point you make that they maintained a core of massive receivers. They want height in that downfield area. Daniel, your thoughts on this pick?
Well, I'm disappointed that it's not Fullerton, because trust me when I say he's interviewing minor league fit insights is probably one of the best that we've had to date. Similar build, because Dave Anderson's also 6'4", so John's 6'4" as well. So it was their pick or deliver which one they wanted, pretty much. And I guess this is the better pickup for them in the end. And who am I to judge the Baltimore team who keeps winning?
That's it. You're exactly right. All right, Mexico City, who accepted an offer to take a few steps back in this draft order. They had to replace their quarterback, Matt Wilson, who we tragically lost mid-season. In fact, I think it was right at the start of the season, who played on through into the playoffs. It was a little fairy tale run that he and Mike Daggs had before the players retired. They replaced that quarterback and filled that vacancy with Jordan Syke, who crosses over from Jacksonville, so they don't need to do anything there. Their backfield is sorted, but they've still got a few picks to be made, so I wonder where everyone's head's at with this pick. Frank, I'll start with you.
One thing we're kind of one position that's open that needs to be filled is kicker, but they could probably wait on that, and they probably will. They're going to have their pick of the litter there. One thing we're forgetting about Mexico City also, not only the loss of the quarterback, but Mike Daggs retiring. So they might be wanting to pick up a guy they can build into that next Mike Daggs, and you may see a fullback switch to tight end here. Possibility. There's some guys out there that are playing fullback with tight end builds, basically. So you might see that type of pick right here.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And potentially a spot for that role to get taken. And also, not that they didn't run with one last season, but there is room on this roster for a true fullback if that's what they want to go with. Eddie, your thoughts on this pick?
Ramos Lynn, he's a trendsetter. He tends to do things and be the first to do it, him alongside Max Paul, Florida. So, last season they converted Ray Bentley over from fullback back to tailback to spell Phoenix Jones. Perhaps they make it a three-headed monster and get a fullback back there to block for him. Who knows what kind of plays they got to come up with should they do so. But like you said, they lost Dax to retirement, so Bill Henry's up there. He's going to step up and try his best to fill those shoes. Not sure how that's going to work out for him, but maybe they can go with a second tight end to complement him. Kicker that, like you said, they can get down the line.
Picks in. I'll let Daniel round this one up.
So originally I had kicker here, but they make some good points that they could get fullback transition to a tight end. There's no true tight end left, but I still want to see some kicker love, even though you could probably get later down the pick. So I'm going to say yay Verity for Mexico City.
Yeah, you make a good point. You've still got Verity, Belson, and a couple others that are options as kickers if they want to go down that route to replace. And what a kicker to have to fill in for in Cole Varner that they didn't retain. So that player goes to retirement. Incredible career. It could be potentially a new face in that position for the Aztecs, but ball cross to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for pick number 20.
With the 20th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Mexico City Aztecs select K.L. Barrett Jr., punter. The 21st pick is Denver. You are back on the clock.
Well, you touched on this earlier already. Obviously, Cal Barrett Jr. returning again, this time as a punter, potentially an option for a special teams coach in this organization. Originally a wide receiver and a very dominant one at that, and now comes back as a member of their special teams unit. I'll start with you, Eddie, seeing as we were touching on this earlier in the program. What do you think about this one?
Well, I saw KL going to Mexico City, but I didn't see it going this early. I figured they hold out on him. But like you said, he played as a punter. I have a funny feeling they're going to serve him as a special teams coach and have him playing kicking duties as well. He won't mind it. He's a total team player. Everyone who knows KL knows his dad played there as a wide receiver. He was one of my favorite players for Mexico City. In my mind, he had one of the best names in the entire SFL, KL Barrett. Although he played wide receiver, he had the name of a linebacker. I love the guy. And I'm sure that Mexico City is glad to have him back in their locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic point. And I'll cross to Frank. Your thoughts on this selection? He's muted himself again. I'll go to Daniel real quick because you were in the ballpark with the special teams shout, but not the player we were thinking of. What do you think about this pick?
Yeah, so they went for someone of the kicking variety, wrong position, but he is the only punter in this draft to make note of. So picking him up, move him to a special teams coach potentially. So you have a kicker and a punter. You got two-headed John right there. It makes sense in the long run, and I think this is a good move for Mexico City.
Completely agree. And again, as we've touched on, a character that they have plenty of experience with, and now they get that value at punter, and we'll be able to migrate a kicker in there as well to fill up a special teams room. And it's someone that I know personally, Robert Cherry, the head coach of the Ottawa Cavalry, spoke quite highly of from KL's time in that SFLM organization, and we see him become the new kicker, potentially kicker punter for the Aztecs. We cross to Denver, their second pick of the evening. Still potentially looking at that quarterback, so we'll probably have a type attack shout once again, but I'll start with Eddie. What do you think Denver are going to do with this selection?
Well, do they finally step up now and get that quarterback that they so desperately need? I guess we have to stay tuned. We find out in a moment, but they also need a kicker. But those are in abundance. So T-Pack, Patak, Gene Struthers and the like, quarterbacks, we'll see which way they go, but I think they're going quarterback.
I love that. All right. Welcome back, Frank. Your thoughts on this Denver selection?
I apologize for that. You would not believe what just happened. Christmas carolers came to my door, and all of my dogs just went nuts. I apologize for that. We're talking about Denver's pick.
We are.
I think this is where they go quarterback here, type attack. Yeah, I think will be the pick here.
That's 2 votes for attack / quarterback. All right. What do you think Denver's doing here?
It would make sense to go quarterback here. They're one of the 2 teams that need a quarterback position. You can still go kicker, but there's plenty of them in the draft. You don't need to worry about it just yet. They don't have a tight end to go for 2 tight ends. Inside linebacker is a shout, but you don't need that right now. So I think quarterback may be the way to go. Just solidify your leader in the locker room here.
Yeah, again, we speak of the fact that they are competing with Queen City for their guy at quarterback, so potentially a very strong case to try and get their guy here and solidify that spot. I mean, lots of shouts for type attack. I think Gene Struthers is another good name that comes to mind. He's been in the minor leagues for quite some time and has built up quite a lot of value. So if they're going the value direction, I think it's Struthers, but obviously we can't speak highly enough of type attack's character. The pick is in. Commissioner Cameron Irvine, who have Denver taken with pick number 21.
With the 21st pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Denver Nightwings select kicker Ye Verity. The 22nd pick is Indianapolis's. You are on the clock.
There we go. So a back-to-back special teams selection, no quarterback. They did have a kicker vacancy that we spoke of when they first came around at the top of the draft, and now they'll fill it with their 2nd pick. I'll start with Frank. Your thoughts on Ye Verity?
Good pick. He's a good, one of the best in the minors, and it's a position of need. So it's a good pick here. Really thought they'd go quarterback, but hey, they can go quarterback later. So because there's only 2 teams that need them, but good pick here.
Absolutely, Eddie. Still no quarterback, but kicker it is. Your thoughts?
Well, Kramer Jackman set the standard for kickers in this league in terms of consistency, going a long time without a miss. My man Cliff Allen is right on his tail, hitting that 56-yard game winner in the playoffs last season, but I digress. But, you know, man, you just wonder how these interviews went. You know, Ty, you know, he scouts, man. I don't get it, but hey, congrats to them. I mean, we seen Ye Verity hit some clutch field goals just yesterday in the championship game in the minors. So congratulations to him. I see him. He's in chat. He's very excited, and I'm sure he's going to do big things in Denver. He's got a big shooter feel in Denver for sure.
Daniel, your thoughts?
So this tells me 2 things. Denver knows who their quarterback for the future is going to be. I think Queen City and Denver both have their different picks and quarterbacks and who they want, so they can wait on this. Kickers maybe a bit more up in the air on who they wanted versus who they could get. And they saw that Ye was still on the board at this point. They might have made that move there.
So it's a great point. And another one who, Ye Verity, who I've heard great things about SFL locker room culture and what he's provided to his respective team. As we cross to the 22nd pick, I'm unsure as to who that is. I'll get that in a second. Is the Indianapolis Ramblers. As Tad Rowland back on the clock, he got his guy earlier in the draft in Rob Hunt, and we circle back to them. Frank, where are Indy going in this time around?
We might see a run on kickers here. They need a kicker, and we might see another one go here. Another defensive back, possibly, maybe a free safety. I think I had Matt Ryan going here at free safety in my mock, but he's gone. So could be another free safety or a kicker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I still like Juniper Belton. I think he's another guy that could well go here. And I've got a feeling that Eddie's going to speak on it again. Fullback, potentially a selection here for Indy. Eddie, do you share the thought?
Of course I do, but I'm not going to even bother mentioning it anymore because I don't want to jinx the young man. But perhaps a lot of teams who draft a guard end up getting a second one to complement them with. So perhaps they go offensive line. Kicker's always an option. Like you said, there's plenty of them to go around so they can get their guy whenever they're ready to do so. So I'm going to go out on a whim and guess, right guard.
Yeah, Max Van Lynn still on the board. We've spoken of that name a couple of times already. All right, your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, O-line is a good shout. I think I mentioned that a bit to the Ramblers their first time around. But I mean, if they lost Ye Verdi, I think now's the time to jump on Juniper Belson and get their kicker for the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But realistically, it's a good spot to be in once again for Chad Rowland. I mean, he got his guy earlier in the draft after trading back. He can now kind of steer with the whole draft pretty much in front of him based on his needs. So we'll see what Chad Britton and Adam Wiseman have done with this pick as we cross to Commissioner Cameron Irvine. Pick 22.
With the 22nd pick in the SFL's Season 20 rookie draft, the Indianapolis Ramblers select cornerback Adam Nold. Jacksonville is on the clock with pick 23.
So they go for Bill, cornerback, and a guy, the other Annapolis Navigators cornerback, has gone off the board. Frank, your thoughts on the selection?
Yeah, another defensive back. There's still some kickers out there with three teams needing one. So maybe a possibility of that later, or definitely a possibility of that later. But good corner pick here. I said possibly another defensive back. Adam Nold is a good one. Shout out to the Navigators. Another pick on the board for them.
Absolutely. Any defensive back, not something we sort of discussed extensively. It was shouted, but not something we were really looking at. What are your thoughts on the selection?
I often give Chad a lot of credit for his great job that he does as a GM. And I'm going to do it again here. Although he's not the GM officially in Indianapolis, he's doing a lot of work, grooming his replacement. And he got the highest rated corner in the draft after trading down. After trading twice. So congratulations to Indianapolis. And there's no pressure on the young man either, because he's going to be the 6th DB on that roster coming in on down 3-2 packages. So great job by Indianapolis.
I completely agree. Daniel, your thoughts on this selection?
Yeah, the good shout. He is the best statted cornerback in the draft. So it's a good pickup. 6'2", a bit tall, so he can actually make the plays that he needs to. He'll be sliding in onto that dime nickel packages, so he'll be a good spot for him. And we'll probably see a kicker down the line in the future for Indianapolis with their last couple of picks or last pick.
For sure. So we cross back to Jacksonville, and Jorge Torres is old. We'll start with you, Frank. Again, we're sort of looking at a situation where it's basically anything they want. They did take a wide receiver earlier in the draft, much to our surprise, but we really haven't seen much of a run on with the linebackers, so they've still kind of got a couple of options that saw Creech go in between, but they've still got options there amongst others, and cornerbacks still an option. Frank, what are you thinking here?
A lot of picks to go with here. Running back can be done later. Again, they're the only one that really needs that running back. So, and there's plenty to choose from. Linebacker, Harper's still there. Diamond's still there. It could be possibly one of those. I had in my mock in this part of the draft them going defensive back. This is possibly where you could see a Ricky Robinson go or a Nano Matthews being picked here.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts?
I'm not sure that they have several choices to go here. Not quite sure which way they're going to go. They surprised me once already, but it's got to be in the secondary or the linebacking core.
Daniel?
Well, they skipped out on linebackers before, so maybe they'll probably skip out again since they know who they're going for that area. We just saw Admiral go into cornerback spots, so I think they'll probably maybe they'll keep going now and get another corner now that they see JW and Admiral off the board. Ricky Robinson's a good scout. I actually like him. He's very active. He's very good at build. I think he'll be a good fit for the Jacksonville.
I like that call, and I think there's a potential for a bit of a run-on with defensive backs in the later rounds, later picks of this first round. So there's very much a potential for that to be the case. But again, still looking at TJ Harper not being drafted yet as someone who was probably the most active out of the entire rookie class across the league. So be interesting to see if he goes here or how much further he falls. But we'll cross to Commissioner Cameron Irvine for the Jacksonville selection.
With the 22nd pick in the SFL's 23rd pick, actually, in the season 20 SFL rookie draft, the Jacksonville Kings select outside linebacker TJ Harper. Queen City is on the clock with the 24th pick.
There it is. He falls no further. TJ Harper, known as the Greatness, has been selected, and he is heading to Jacksonville. Frank, your thoughts on this selection?
Very happy for TJ. I told you at the beginning, him and Rob Hunt are big fans of. Very active in the chat, being involved with other people, helping them as they come into the league and everything like that. He's a very good locker room guy. He's going to be able to help Jacksonville in the future, not only on the field, but off the field.
As you see, TJ Harper is sitting in the green room for a little bit. Wait no longer. Eddie Gage, your thoughts on this selection?
I predicted on Ashley's show earlier this week that TJ Harper would fall to either Carolina, Queen City, or Jacksonville. I'd like to give myself a pat on the back. I know TJ, like you said, very active in the community, very active in chat. He tried to get his name out there. He trademarks himself and everything else they got going on down there. So congratulations to the young man.
And Daniel, your thoughts?
So with Jacksonville's first pick, I originally had TJ Harper. I thought that they might have already had him locked in and might keep him up for later rounds now that they know who they were going to pick. TJ is a great guy. He's part of the flex squad. I think we should also be flexing now that he's picked up. Very vocal. He does have a personality that you either love or you kind of shy away from, right? He's a polar in a way, kind of. But I mean, you either love him or you don't, and I think he's a great pickup for Jacksonville.
He is the Johnny Pickler of defense, in my opinion.
Yes. That's a real pick. And it's a very gutsy pick by Jacksonville, but again, when you've got so many gaps in your roster, you sort of want a guy that can come in and really change the culture a lot, and I think that's a real motivation here for them with this pick. As we cycle back, Tom Welsh on camera here in City. But yeah, a huge pick for Jacksonville here, and one that potentially classifies as a steal, just given how much he will provide for this organization. And camera reference to his flex squad group that he was a tremendous part of. And we switched to Queen City. So again, we are going to have quarterback at the back of our minds again as Denver passed up this spot for a second time. Frank, your thoughts on this pick?
Is this where they steal type attack? Is this they let Denver twice have a chance and say, okay, that's enough. We're going to take him here. Not necessarily, saying that he's the one that everybody wants. They've got their guy in mind. Denver has their guy in mind, and again, it's just those two, and they can pick them later on down the road. I have a defensive back going here. Again, Ricky Robinson out there, Nano Matthews out there. They still need help on the defensive line. And so it could be there as well.
I think Denver's defense is a very good shout because they took their safety in the start at the top of the draft, and now they're probably looking either at their free safety spot or something on the line. And again, we're sort of in this position where it's like it could be anything. Eddie, your thoughts on this pick here from Queen City?
I think I may have figured out what was going on. So, like you said earlier, I believe both Queen City and Denver know who their quarterback of the future is. And they've been talking to, their guy, but they've also been asking them, hey, is Queen City talking to you? Is Denver talking to you? No? Okay, cool. Don't take it personal. We're going to wait. Sit back. We're going to make our other selections first and come back and get you later. Don't worry about it. Trust me, you're our guy. But if that's the case, then perhaps they're going to the secondary again with this pick. They already picked up a strong safety. Perhaps they go free safety because defensive end, defensive tackle, there's not many of them, but the value is better suited as safety, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great point. And should that be correct? I guess, yeah, it's a good point you make that we've only two teams needing quarterbacks. It sort of lessens the need for. And again, if there is some kind of contradiction in the end and one team doesn't get their guy, there's plenty of depth there available for a potential plan B to be thrown in. Daniel, your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I think by now everybody knows who the quarterbacks is. They know who they're picking. Free safety wise, there's only one Browns free safety in the draft, and they need free safety that they can put on and match up against anybody. So this would be the place to take it since they took a strong safety last time.
Right, I've got to check back. Who is that bronze free safety?
Todd Rigsby from Lexington Miners, 60.84
Good
value.
call. I like that. That's a good call. And obviously they went value with their first pick with GB Wallace, and that's potentially the way to go again. If they go and get him while he's still there as a viable starter, it's a good look for Queen City and a potential solution. And I guess it is a good point that we've seen quite a run on of defensive linemen, but there isn't much value there to be had because there were a lot of late signups with players who didn't have as many progressions as others. So it'll be an interesting point to whether or not that is the direction they go in. Queen City's pick is in. Commissioner Karen O'Brien to announce pick number 24.
With the 24th pick in the Season 20 SFL Rookie Draft, the Queen City Corsairs select defensive end Dan Dash. The 25th pick is Indies from Carolina. You are on the clock.
Dan Dash is a name that's come up a couple of times across the panel. Frank, I'll start with you. Thoughts on this selection?
This is a good hit for them. They needed this spot, defensive end, and he's a big one. 303, a disruptive type of player. 22 tackles, 5 sacks, 9 total tackles for loss. So he can get pressure on the quarterback, and they're going to need this guy. Maybe he can bring back shades of Duffy that they used to have. So we'll see what happens.
That's a great point. Eddie, your thoughts?
I thought they were going secondary, but hey, they need a position filled in both secondary and defensive line. So solid pickup for them. 6'3", 303 pounds. That's pretty big for defensive end. Normally see that kind of weight on defensive tackle. So perhaps he's going to be more of a run stuffer early on in his career until he develops a bit more, but we'll see how it plays out.
Daniel, I liked your shout, but not the direction they went in. Your thoughts on this selection of Dan Dash?
It's okay. I'm pretty much wrong this entire round one, so it's okay. I had them picking Dan Dash with their first pick, so I guess I should have just leaned on that more. But Dan Dash is a good pickup. He's in the chat right now. Happy as can be to be picked. A good pick. One of the better defensive ends, and we know we're starting to get running a little low on that spot.
Totally a character that congratulations to him, as he's, I'm sure, elated with being selected in the first round and going to Queen City. It's many championship titles to their name, and a team that took a step forward last season under Tom Welsh's leadership. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the draft as we go along. Indianapolis are up again. We've seen them pick twice. Frank, I'll start with you.
Again, Chad is going to wow us with a pick. We don't know where he's going to go with it. I think he needs to. I think I said something about linebacker, but no, kicker. I'm sorry, kicker. So we may see kicker here, or we'll see. Again, another wow pick by Chad.
Juniper Belson's still on the board for a kicker option. Your thoughts on Chad's next pick?
I don't know. He surprised me with his first pick going wide receiver. So I'm not sure which direction this young man is going to go. But 3 first-round picks. I don't know if that's ever been done in the SFL before. So shout out to the Indianapolis organization. I've already said fullback. Now I'm going to go ahead and say kicker.
Yeah, fair enough. And Daniel, your thoughts on this pick?
I mean, he's been confusing us all the time. So I'll just confuse and say, let's go O-line. Let's pick something from the O-line still. Why not at this point?
Yeah, we've teased offensive line a couple of times for this team. A kicker again, fullback potentially an option still to continue filling out this roster that has sort of undergone a bit of shaking up. I mean, you expect that from an expansion organization, but good point to be made. 3 first-round picks for a team. That is an astounding effort with trading and movement, and also to go and get a guy like Rob Hunt at pick number 8, someone who was very active, had a highlight reel tape. We talked to a lot of people in the league who just kind of at everyone's doors, and he got his spot, and they've gone and filled yet another need. And I guess here again we're in a situation where Chad can kind of go in whatever direction he wants. And, we've talked about options. We've still got poor Jay Barmer still waiting to get drafted. There's still kickers available. I think they have filled that defensive back need, so they don't necessarily need that. An offensive line, we haven't seen any of the offensive linemen go, I don't think. So we've still got
one.
That as a possibility. Right. Okay. So we've still got that as a possibility at the end of the panel. I think Daniel running with that. Any thoughts to throwing for this selection while we wait for it to come in?
Chad has done a good job of he helped build Baltimore. Some people may forget about that or not even know about that he was part of Baltimore. Got out, came back, and was part of London, and got London back in, got them to the playoffs and everything like that. Was able to bring Johnny over to London like that. I think Chad likes guys that are active and vocal and chat and things like that to help promote the team and everything. So the pick of the Rob Hunt and all that falling into his lap. So I think Daniel saying O-line here could possibly be a possibility, but I still think it's going to be kicker.
Yeah, I mean, we speak constantly about the talents of this man as a recruiter and general manager, and he's got eyes all over the place. It's just incredible just to see how well he's developed that Baltimore roster, as you touched on, and then further on in London in the creation of that defense in particular over time, and now on this Indy roster as you await this pick. All kinds of options available for the Indianapolis Ramblers.
Jacob, while we wait, Jacob, we've been giving Chad too much credit here. I mean, he's a smart guy, but he's not that smart. So I'm going to go ahead and give a lot of this credit to their current GM, Chris Britton, because Chad's probably just sitting back in the sidelines. He taught him a little bit, but Chris took it all to another level. So let's give Chris Britton some love, the current GM of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I remember when he was you spoke very highly of him because he'd come from that DC Dragons organization. He's got the same passion. He's a real hungry guy, and I'm sure has had his hand really well in this pie as Indy's pick is in. We've waited the full 5 minutes. We've finally got it. Pick 25, Commissioner Cameron Irvine.
With the 25th pick in the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Indianapolis Ramblers select offensive guard Max Van Linge. The 26th pick is Canton. You're on the clock.
There he goes, Max Van Linge, originally a tackle in the SFL and now a guard. Indy's got their offensive linemen to line up alongside Chad Rowland. Frank, your thoughts on this selection?
Daniel had mentioned this earlier with one of their earlier picks of possibly matching up with Chad Rowland, and then kind of jokingly mentioned offensive line again with this pick, and it's a typical Chad pick. It's you're surprised by it, but you're not really surprised by it because he knows what he's doing. He's building what he thinks is going to be for a playoff run and making the playoffs and everything. And so it's a good pick. It's a good offensive lineman. He's going to do very well.
Absolutely. Eddie, your thoughts on this selection?
I think it's a great pick. You're in the same division that has the likes of Minnesota, who has a great front four, coached up very well on defense. So you want to keep guys like Max Knight and Mark Mello off of your quarterback as much as you can, as well as open up potential run lanes for your running back. So great pickup for Indianapolis.
Absolutely. Daniel?
I think I need to jokingly make picks more because I'm more accurate at this point. But I did mention this before that Indianapolis might go this route in a previous pick. I guess I leaned onto it this time, and this is a perfect pick. So now their last pick, they'll work on a kicker more than likely in this following second round.
We cross to Canton. Cam Curtis is back on draft camera. The quarterback of this organization, and we'll see Mike hopefully do something spectacular again. This is their last selection of the draft. They've just got one last spot left to fill. I'll start with you, Frank. Where do you think this one's going?
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking defensive backfield. I'm thinking they're going to they had a couple spots there to fill. So possibly see that happen.
Just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that I don't think anyone in this league, bar Mike Goll, would get a cardboard cutout of himself and then stand next to it.
How long can he stand there?
But which one is the real one?
Well, that's the question. Well, let's test
Let's
it.
make him stand there as long as possible.
Eddie, Eddie's got full control over this pick, you can tell, because he's very focused on emulating his cardboard cutout of his. But where do you think this pick's going?
All you got to do to get him to move and find out which one is which is just throw a bag of chips out there, because he's, like he always says, he's all that in a bag of chips. So just throw some Doritos by his feet and he'll move and pick them up real quick. But they lost Chris Comasack last season at the end of the season. He went on to Minnesota to get reunited with B.J. Lovelace. So perhaps they fulfill that position and maybe Jay Bomber gets a call.
Yeah, I like that. Daniel, thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I'm thinking they go fullback here as well. Jay Bomber is a good set. I'll also say Buford Van Dam is still another good pick as well. 6'4", 255, big, lean, can really make those blocks. You could be happy with either one on this side.
We've been waiting for it. It's time for a fullback. I fancy, and we've kind of been gunning for Jay Barmer for most of this draft, and I agree. Buford Van Dam is another good option. Again, it's like we said earlier, it's a position that we can't really go wrong with. There's quite a few guys in a draft class at the fullback position that they could do really well with. They need Rojo. Rojo needs some help after losing Chris Comasack, a very good fullback have to replace, and certainly a great shout to complete this roster. Off chance of it being offensive lineman, but I completely agree, and I think Rollins is on the fullback selection. The pick's in. Commissioner Cameron Irvine with pick number 26 for the evening.
With the 26th pick in the SFL Season 20... I can still see my call. He's just doing more. The cat is trying to climb. Can we get this up here? The cat's trying to climb his leg, and it was freaking him out. God, I really wish I would have got that on camera. Oh, goodness. Mike All, always the character. With the 26th pick of the SFL Season 20 rookie draft, the Canton Classics select fullback Kane Hunter. The 27th pick belongs to Fort Worth. You are on the clock.
Got the position, but once again, not the player. Kane Hunter off the board for the Canton Classics. Frank, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the selection?
It's a good pick. I mean, they needed fullback.
They did take the smallest fullback in the draft, so it'll be interesting to see how that performs for them. But let's try and get people settled in. So if we can go to Fort Worth, even though the giggling is hilarious.
All right, Fort Worth. I think this is pick 2 for Fort Worth, if my memory serves me correctly. Frank, your thoughts on this next selection for Fort Worth?
Let's see. You know, like I said, a couple seasons, they've gone 2 backs. Could they possibly take a running back here and, hopefully not be one of Jacksonville's guys? Who knows? We'll see what happens. Let's hope, we don't have another Mike All incident.
Aaron Alexander is a little more subdued than that last effort. Eddie, your thoughts on the selection?
Fort Worth, they're pretty solid in terms of team needs and all that. So I'm not sure which way they're going to go. They did a great job early in the draft picking up defensive tackle Mark Gibson. I'm really not sure. Perhaps the last offensive lineman on the board. That's pretty much all I can really think of for them in terms of needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's still a lone center left, I believe. The name escapes me, but there is a lineman left. If that's the direction that they want to go in. Daniel, I'll leave it to you.
They can go offensive line. They can go another one in the secondary. Or they could go, and this is probably just me hoping at this point, they could go 4th wide receiver, see if easy money lands on the Fort Worth team potentially.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Plenty of options to run with here. And Fort Worth, Aaron Alexander and his efforts to maintain this roster, it's a good roster at that, and a team that without Jason Williams will be interesting to see. They sort of changed their philosophy towards the end of last season. That was a large part of the reason why Williams left the team, because of their change of heart with regards to their run game. They've now got J.T. Bacon as the lead back, or Charles Circle, as most would know him as. They've sort of changed that philosophy, so I guess that plays into the potential that wide receiver 4 is an option here, because of the fact that that philosophy change may garner more attention for Marcus Dunhill and the rest of this Fort Worth offense. Any late thoughts to throw in here for I see that's still tickling Eddie, but we'll keep going. This pick's almost worse. I
like Daniel's nonchalant wide receiver, and that's probably going to end up being the pick, and maybe his guy will go here.
We'll find out in due time as pick 27 is officially in or passes to Commissioner Cameron Irvine.
With the 27th pick in the Season 20 SFL rookie draft, the Fort Worth Toros select wide receiver John Fullerton. The last pick of the night, that's Jacksonville by way of Sioux Falls. You are on the clock.
Daniel, a little bit of a roll here. I'll start with you. Your guy is off the board.
Yeah, I feel like I should have made notes to begin with for this round because nothing has gone right here. I'm just going to go off the gut, and this is a good pickup for them. Do you have Charlie Breaker move up to the third spot? So they did have a need to fill for the fourth spot. Easy money, very good person to talk to. Had a great interview with. He was really just a spot on guy, class act. They got a home run here, I think.
We'll pass back to Frank. Your thoughts on the selection?
I liked all those skill position offensive guys being taken. It's he's a tall receiver, a little on the light side, about 193 pounds. But he's wide receiver 4. He'll have time to get his build where they want it, and a good quality guy like Daniel said. That's probably going to be one of those guys that sticks around for the long haul. They can build around.
Absolutely, he was massive and a huge character ad for Fort Worth, with a very talented receiving core between Hacker and Cade Stevens and Charlie Baker. Eddie, round this one up for us.
6'4", 193 pounds. Wow, he needs to get in the weight room. But Fort Worth, another team who decides to go with a full wide receiver core, making it very difficult to defend. Trust me, I know from experience how much of an advantage that could serve for a team. So congratulations on them making that pick. John Fullerton finally comes off the board.
Well, then we turn our attention to the Jacksonville Kings once again for pick number 28. This team, again, we just still not looking at that key position of running back. So, Frank, where is this pick going?
Stan Diamond's still out there. They still need another outside linebacker. Could they pick their running back here? Sean Sanders or a Slap from Albuquerque, is a possibility. They've got a lot of picks left. They got a lot of holes to fill. Running back probably is not going to be the top priority here. Look, maybe defensive side of the ball, linebacker probably.
Eddie, are you in agreement?
I am. I mean, Jacksonville has a lot of cap available at their disposal. Stan Diamond would be a great fit for them in terms of value, what they're going to get for him. But they could also go in the secondary. I mean, you got a lot of quality guys waiting to get picked up with value. So they got a couple of different options here.
Daniel, your thoughts on this pick?
So I actually think they're going to the secondary. They picked up TJ Harper in their last pick. So it makes me think that they already got one linebacker. Now they can split their things because they still need 2 corners. So I can see Ricky Robinson going here or Nano Matthews. Both of them quality guys, very talkative, good at people to really just have a chat with. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're there. Maybe I should shrug and hope it happens.
Yes, Jacksonville in need of a defensive back. They took receiver at the top of the board, then got TJ Harper with their second pick, as we discussed, and they need another guy at minimum in this defensive backfield with the playmakers that they've got. They've held on to young Vaught, and what a character he is, and Bernard Gooden at cornerback 1. So they've got some pieces there in the backfield to sort of work with, and the option to still take one of the higher valued cornerbacks remaining on the board. Ricky Robertson, potentially a little bit short for a starting cornerback, but Portland have made that height work of 5'11" with Derek Majors, a very successful in his own right. So there's always potential for that selection to potentially be a starter. We await for Jacksonville and Jorge Torres to finish this pickup. Any late thoughts on this selection?
Well, when I had mentioned outside linebacker because they need both. They need 2, and they got one already. And while Eddie was talking, I was looking through my notes some more, and I did notice that they only have the one corner. And Daniel brought up the 2 names I was going to mention. The knock on Ricky Robinson at being 5'11". 5'11", is not short, but it's one of the shorter corners. I mean, in the program, he's going to be listed as 6'2" probably, but the guy makes plays. Yeah, he makes plays, and that's the type of guys you want. You want guys active on chat, active in the locker room, and guys that are going to make plays. And Nano Matthews and Ricky Robinson are guys that do that. They find the football.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we touched on it earlier with these two teams, Queens and Jacksonville, looking at character ads probably over everything else, really, because of that need to fill their team out with long-term plays. And again, we've sort of touched on Ricky Robinson as a character that would do really well with this organization and partner with the previous two picks that they've made that sort of followed that trajectory in Harper and Swayze. So any further thoughts from around the panel as we await this selection?
I'd just like to echo Frank's comments. They already have a Mike linebacker in the middle. They also have that linebacker on the edge and TJ Harper. So, perhaps they wait until, tomorrow to pick up that third linebacker, and they do address those needs in the secondary because it is a glaring one.
Yeah, I think we've sort of all on that same thought process with the defensive back, because we sort of anticipated that they would have done it already and they haven't. And so we're now sort of, I guess, looking at that and those potential names as options to partner with the previously mentioned members of the defensive backfield. Looking further, talk about Nano Matthews. I think Roy Towers is another name that we haven't talked about much coming out of the Ottawa Cavalry system. A name that I think deserves a bit of love for his character. He was someone that I spoke to personally as my organisation as we were looking to fill that 6 defensive back spot. So he's another guy that is one to watch as we progress through this pick. I think Newton North also has a good build. Looking through this list here of the players that have not been picked at this position. So they've got options, Jacksonville, and plenty that could potentially be taken here. Jacksonville's pick is in, pick number 28. Commissioner Cameron Irvine to announce the pick.
With the 28th and final pick of the SFL Season 20 Rookie Draft first round, the Jacksonville Kings select cornerback Nathan Nur. Congratulations to all rookies drafted in round 1. Join us tomorrow for round 2 with coverage starting at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube with a whole new panel. Great job, day 1 panel. Jacob Garrison, Eddie Daniel, take us out.
Final pick of the night, and they grab a bronze value cornerback. It wasn't the one we were discussing, but certainly a decently valued pick. And congratulations to Nathan there with the pick of night 1, Frank.
6'4", 195 pounds, a tall defensive back, and one name that we really haven't dropped that much. He only had 1 interception, but he had 51 tackles. So he's not afraid to come up and play the run. Nathan Nur is going to be a positive addition to the team.
And that size is really important when you look at the receivers that he could potentially be matching up with. Eddie, your thoughts on the pick?
I think, honestly, when you think about it, that may have what got him the nod over the other guys who have more value on him. I mean, you can't teach height, and he has it, 6'4". We just talked about Baltimore having 4 6'4" wide receivers. So Jacksonville is trying to match up with those height, advantages other teams have at wide receiver.
Daniel, final thoughts on the pick?
Yeah, so overall, he's the same overall as Nano Matthews. So he same kind of idea that they went with pick up the corner. 6'4" is definitely a tall person to try and throw the ball over. So it makes sense that with all the tall wide receivers, you want someone to jump up the ball against him. Good set. Lexington Miners played terrific defense in the minor leagues this season. Even though he got 1 interception, his tackles, he had a lot of them. Which you really want to see in a corner that's that tall. You want to see him to stop the man if the guy gets the ball. So it's good to see that he can make that tackle if necessary.
Absolutely. going to wrap this one up. A fantastic night from the panel and Commissioner Cameron Irvine. I'm going to cycle through the panel one last time. I want to know from all three of you the best pick this evening and what you're most looking forward to on day 2 that will be brought to you by Chris Curtis and company. Start with Frank.
Best pick, I would say, I would go with the best 3 picks, and that's Chad Rowland, wheeling and dealing, going all Jimmy Johnson on us and acquiring extra picks in the first round and getting 3 quality guys, namely Rob Hunt.
Absolutely. And most looking forward to tomorrow.
Tomorrow, seeing these quarterbacks going. Tomorrow, we should see type attack go either to Denver or to Queen City. So we'll see what happens there.
Absolutely. Eddie?
To me, in my chat voice, to me, any team that picked up an offensive lineman, so teams like Sioux Falls and Indianapolis, I can't stress enough just how important they are. I have 3 of them. I wish I had 5. So those 2 teams, I'd like to give a shout out to those. Geno McFly going over number one overall to Charleston. You can't go wrong there. Houston picking up, in my opinion, one of the better active guys in the community, and cornerback J.W. Hawthorne. He's a proven winner, and I look forward to him doing great things in that Houston organization. So, and as far as tomorrow, I'm looking forward to, besides the obvious with the quarterbacks, Jay Bomber, someone please draft this young man.
I love that shout. I think Hartson's a terrific pick, and Indy, a fantastic effort from that organization. Daniel, see us out.
Sure thing. For me, I have 2 good picks. Jacob Creech falling all the way to London is a very good pickup for London personally. I think that's a spectacular move. And the other move I want to say was Carolina moving up in the draft to take the tight end before Sioux Falls got the chance to take a tight end on their own side of the fence. So I think Carolina moving up and getting that tight end was really necessary for how they wanted to do. For what I'm looking forward to see tomorrow, I know they know what quarterbacks they're picking. I want to know what quarterbacks they're picking, so I want to know who it is. That's the thing I'm looking forward to seeing. And seeing what running back gets picked, because there's only one running back potentially getting picked in the second round.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly one to watch who Jacksonville are going to take as their guy to replace Jarrett Willis, such an incredible player. That both he and Grace ending their careers over the off-season, so a huge vacancy there in Jacksonville. Okay, well, a fantastic evening to you all. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Commissioner and Producer Cameron Irvine for all the work behind the scenes to bring the highlight tapes, the GM cams and the player cams to center stage here for night 1 of the draft. My name's Jacob Clear. I was your host this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And Garrison Blue, Eddie Gage, and Daniel Wright, your analysts. Wonderful evening to you all, and we'll see you tomorrow with Chris Curtis and company to take you through day 2 of the SFL rookie drafts. Good night, SFL Nation.
Arizona, I love ya.
Take care, everyone.